Chapter 700. Great Elder, are you okay? The sixth elder slowly crawled out of the rubble. Gravel rolled down and his face was grimaced. His mustache curled up and his hair was disheveled. Looking at the big hole in Chu Changxing's chest, he was also frightened. Was the old man from the heavenly spring Holy Land that strong? He could injure Chu Changxing severely. It's okay. That old man's wounds are worse than mine, Chu Changxing said faintly. Chu Changxing said casually. His hand glowed with a sparkling radiance. His palm covered the gaping hole in his chest. True energy surged, and sizzling sounds arose. In the next moment, the flesh on his chest squirmed, slowly squeezing toward the center, covering the wound. Loosening his hand, Chu Changxing's chest revealed a hideous scar. Sixth Elder, I might have to leave the Valley of Gluttony for a while. Tomorrow's Glutton God's banquet will be hosted by you. Chu Changxing's eyes were deep as he looked out of the valley. The sixth elder was bewildered. What? He was going to host the Glutton God's banquet? How could he host it? Although his power wasn't bad, he was still lacking compared to Chu Changxing. Chu Changxing was still a little intimidating to the people from the Holy Land. However, if it was him, the intimidation effect would be much weaker. Although he was also an elder, his status and position were worlds apart from Chu Changxing's. Go ahead and host it. Believe in yourself. Even if you can't host it well, how bad can it be? The muscles on Chu Changxing's face twitched. He took out a coat from his spatial ring and put it on. Then, he walked to the sixth elder and gently patted him. The sixth elder's face changed. Yes, the current situation was already very bad. How bad could it get? The holy lands of the Hidden Dragon Royal Court had already released their claws and teeth, attacking the Valley of Gluttony. They had nowhere to retreat. They knew the location of the White Taotia's seal, but they hadn't acted yet. They were probably waiting for the Valley of Gluttony's inheritance. Once they knew the location of the inheritance, the Valley of Gluttony would lose its value, and the Royal Court's army would invade. Chu Changxing sighed. How could he not understand this situation? However, even he felt helpless. The only thing he could do now was to find a successor for the Valley of Gluttony's inheritance. And the best candidate for the successor was that little girl, Xiaoya. As the Valley Master's daughter, of course, Xiaoya is the best candidate. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sealed the Black Taotia's soul in her body. Chu Changxing sighed, standing on the city wall. As the wind blew, the sleeves of the coat fluttered slightly. Sixth Elder, everything depends on you, Chu Changxing said. Then, while the sixth elder gawked in bewilderment, Shi Yan leaped up and landed in front of the Glutton God City. As if the ground had shrunk to an inch, he disappeared into the distance in just a blink of an eye. The sixth elder was dumbfounded. Although what the great elder said made sense. But was it really good to be a shopkeeper who did not do anything? The sixth elder's mustache trembled. These few days, the Cloud Mist Restaurant's business was booming. Many experts of the Pill Palace flocked over. After all, the Cloud Mist Restaurant's name was exceptionally popular in Heavenly Mist City. Heavenly Mist City was the main city of the Pill Palace. Countless experts and alchemists gathered here. The Pill Palace was no longer the Pill Palace of the past. In Heavenly Mist City, restaurants were no longer strange. Because of the Cloud Mist Restaurant, many restaurants popped up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. Many alchemists and experts no longer rejected restaurants. They would go in and have a taste. Of course, in terms of taste, they could not be compared to the Cloud Mist Restaurant. After all, that restaurant had the legendary dark horse, Owner Bu. Owner Bu's culinary skills were famous for being top-notch. Anyone who had tasted his dishes had nothing to say. Heavenly Mist City, Star Tower. Dazzling light constantly bloomed on the Star Tower, dazzling and resplendent. All of a sudden, a beam of light shot out from the top of the Star Tower, shooting straight into the sky. Many people were shocked. In the next instant, carriages and horses slowly entered Heavenly Mist City's outskirts. That was the carriage of the Pill Palace's palace master, Luo Danqing. Many people recognized it and couldn't help but feel suspicious. Many people who knew the situation were even more confused. Didn't the palace master go to the glutton god's banquet organized by the Valley of Gluttony? Why did he come back? And looking at his appearance, he seemed to be in a hurry. Could it be that something bad happened? Once Luo Danqing's carriage entered the Star Tower, the radiance of the Star Tower disappeared. In the next instant, the doors of the Star Tower opened, and Luo Danqing's figure dashed out. Luo Danqing clasped his hands behind his back as he walked in the air. His hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes gazed into the distance, looking at the location of the Cloud Mist restaurant. There was a strange light surging in his eyes. He was also at the Glutton God's banquet. He clearly saw what Bufang did there. It was because he saw it that he felt a little confused and shocked. What did Owner Bu do at the Glutton God's banquet? Not only did he offend the Heavenly Spring Saint Sun, but he also provoked the Black Taotia's tyranny, causing the Heavenly Spring Saint Sun to fall. He even fought with the White Taotai. He took the Taotia's soul and ran away. This was simply trampling on the face of the Holy Lands. With the royal court's Holy Land's desire for face, they would definitely not let Bufang off. It was not hard to imagine that there would definitely be a large army coming, and those troops would definitely not be weak. Luo Danqing took a deep breath. He didn't know what to do next. To protect Bufang, he, Luo Danqing, didn't have the face to push Bufang out. He, Luo Danqing, also didn't have the face to do such a thing. Previously, when the Pill Palace was in danger, it was Bufang who stood up and saved them. Now that Bufang was in danger, the Pill Palace actually pushed him out. This kind of thing wasn't something that he, the white-faced scholar, could do. However, if he didn't push Bufang out, the Pill Palace would very likely face the danger of destruction once again. This time, it wasn't just the ancient Shura city, but the true holy lands of the hidden dragon royal court. What should he do? Luo Danqing's face revealed a conflicted expression. His figure moved, instantly stepping on the air toward the Cloud Mist restaurant. The Cloud Mist restaurant was still as lively as ever. The entrance was like a marketplace, and the queue was very long. When Luo Danqing appeared, many people recognized him. Instantly, they exclaimed in surprise and made way for him. Luo Danqing was also a little embarrassed. If it was any other time, he would have rejected these people's offer. However, today, he really had something to discuss with Bufang, so he didn't stand on ceremony. Soon, he entered the restaurant. He didn't see Bufang, but he saw Yu, who was lying on the chair. This woman's slender legs were fair and straight, and her beautiful face was slightly closed. She was lying under the Path Understanding tree, taking a nap. He also saw the little girl who had swallowed the Heavenly Spring Saint Sun at the Glutton God's banquet. That little girl was wearing a floral dress, and her hair was tied up in a ponytail. She was running around the restaurant excitedly, constantly recording the dishes that were being ordered. It was hard to imagine that this cute little girl in front of him was the terrifying existence that had instantly turned dark and swallowed the Heavenly Spring's Saint Sun. He gulped down a mouthful of saliva. Luo Danqing still had a lingering fear in his heart as he looked at Xiaoya. He found a seat and sat down. Xiaoya didn't seem to recognize Luo Danqing. That was right. At the Glutton God's banquet, she only cared about eating. How would she have the time to observe the people around her? "Excuse me, what would you like to eat?" "The recipe is behind you," Xiaoya said as she ran over. Her face was flushed and her eyes were blinking as she asked. Luo Danqing's eyes shrank, and he gave Xiaoya a deep look. "Excuse me, is Owner Bu here?" Luo Danqing asked elegantly. He had always been like this, like a spring breeze. "Owner Bu is in the kitchen? Are you looking for him? But you might need to order something first." "This is Owner Bu's rule," Xiaoya said. She had been running around the restaurant for the past few days, and she basically understood the routine. When she was in the Valley of Gluttony, she had worked in a restaurant before, so naturally she could easily understand the tasks. Then give me a treasured pagoda meat. Luo Danqing nodded his head. He glanced at the menu and saw the treasured pagoda meat at the top. He immediately spoke. Also, tell owner Bu that the Pill Palace's master, Luo Danqing, has something to say to him. After Luo Danqing ordered the dishes, he reminded the waiter. Xiao Ye nodded her head, turned around and walked toward the window. Xiao Ye relayed Luo Danqing's order and his words to Bu Fang. Bu Fang, who was cooking in the kitchen, was stunned. Alright, I got it. Bring this dish out. Oh right, let the palace master wait, Bu Fang said. Then, the kitchen knife in his hand spun, and the ingredients flew everywhere. Luo Danqing swallowed his saliva. This was his first time in Bu Fang's restaurant. Although he had heard many people talking about how magical Bu Fang's restaurant was and how delicious the dishes were, the atmosphere was a little different. He had been to famous restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony, but the feeling he got from those restaurants was completely different from the Cloud Mist restaurant. His eyes turned and fell on Yu, who was taking a nap. This woman was a netherworld creature, incomparably terrifying. She could be in existence at the Great Void Realm. Great Void Realm. According to the Divine Soul Realm, it was a terrifying existence with 8 or even 9 steps of the Soul Ladder. Even Chu Chongqing, the pillar of the Valley of Gluttony, had only condensed 7 steps of the Soul Ladder. And that fat black dog seemed to be in existence not weaker than that netherworld woman. This restaurant seemed to have a very unusual relationship with the netherworld. Thinking about this, Luo Danqing felt a headache. The netherworld seemed to have a tense relationship with the hidden dragon royal court. A spirit boat slowly traversed through the void, causing the space around it to tremble and ripples to appear unceasingly. It was like a shooting star flashing across the sky, so fast that no one could catch its trajectory. Suddenly, the spirit boat floated in the void. A figure wrapped in golden armor came out of the spirit boat. The Pill Palace's Heavenly Pill City and Heavenly Shine City have already been taken over by our Heavenly Spring Holy Land. However, there's still the Heavenly Mist City left. Originally, the Amethyst Elder said that he would let it go, but now that such a thing has happened, he can't blame anyone else. Since that's the case, let's take over the Heavenly Mist City as well. Anyway, Amethyst Elder has been waiting for that star tower for a long time, the expert in golden armor muttered. In the next instant, his eyes under the armor instantly shot out a red light. A buzzing sound resounded, and the spirit boat instantly shot out. After taking care of that kid, we'll also take over Heavenly Mist City. All of this. If there's someone to blame, blame it on that kid who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Chapter 701. Bu Fang put down the kitchen knife in his hand. After getting rid of the water on his hand, he turned around to look at Yang Meiji and Sorceress and Xing behind him. At this moment, the two of them were concentrating on practicing their knife skills and cooking dishes. Of course, they weren't cooking the dishes that the customers had ordered. Instead, it was the task that Bu Fang had assigned to them. He wanted them to practice and familiarize themselves with cooking. Actually, cooking was a process of practice makes perfect. When you practice cooking more dishes, your culinary skills would naturally improve. If you paid more attention to the details, you would be able to reach the next level. Of course, this so-called reaching the next level was not enough for Bu Fang. He had strict requirements for his apprentices. Naturally, he wouldn't let them pass so easily. After walking around their stove for a while, Bu Fang expressionlessly nodded. Looking at the two of them who were concentrating, Bu Fang couldn't help but think of the two chef apprentices in Fang Fang's little store in the Light Wind Empire, Xiao Xiaolong and Yu Fu. I wonder what level the cooking skills of those two little fellows have reached now. Rubbing his temples, Bu Fang didn't want to think about it. Now wasn't the time for him to return to the Light Wind Empire. Bu Fang was a little excited. When he returned, He didn't know what kind of surprise the two kids would give him. Walking out of the kitchen, Bufang went to the restaurant. The sun was setting in the west. The number of customers in the restaurant gradually decreased. Many people knew that it was time for owner Bu to call it a day. However, in the restaurant, Luo Danqing was still sitting quietly and elegantly. In front of him was a jar of white jade wine. It was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew. He squinted his eyes, holding a blue and white porcelain cup in his hand. He poured the cool wine into it, and the thick wine fragrance spread out, lingering around the tip of his nose. He couldn't help but take in a deep breath. As a self-proclaimed romantic scholar, Luo Danqing naturally loved wine. He didn't expect that the restaurant would have such good wine. He drank it so much that he forgot to go home. Unfortunately, there was only one jar of this wine a day, so he treasured it very much. At first glance, Bufang saw Luo Danqing. His eyebrows slightly arched as he walked in front of him, pulled a chair, and sat down. Previously, Xiaoye had told him that Luo Danqing was looking for him. At that time, he was busy and didn't have time to reply. Now, he could listen to what Luo Danqing was looking for him for. At the Glutton God's banquet, Bufang naturally saw Luo Danqing. When he was in trouble, Luo Danqing didn't stand up for him. However, Bufang didn't blame him. After all, Luo Danqing was weak. However, Bufang didn't blame Luo Danqing, and that was it. His impression of Luo Danqing wasn't too good, but it wasn't too bad either. Tisk Luo Danqing gulped down the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew in the blue and white porcelain cup. His face creased as he let out an admiring sigh. His brows relaxed as if he had just experienced something really good. Good wine. Delicious. Luo Danqing opened his eyes, gazing at Bufang with a blurry look in his eyes, as he said with a smile. Of course. Bufang's face was expressionless. With a flip of his hand, he also took a small porcelain cup and poured himself a cup of wine. He raised the wine in his hand and clinked it with Luo Danqing's cup. Cheers. In the next instant, Bufang gulped down the entire cup. As the boiling hot wine flowed down his throat, it rushed to his heart in the next instant, transforming into an ice-cold feeling that penetrated his heart. This made Bufang let out a sigh of relief. Cheers? Luo Danqing was bewildered. In the next instant, a smile bloomed on his face as he gulped down the wine. If I knew that owner Bu has good wine here, I would come here every day to drink. Such good wine is really unforgettable. Luo Danqing sighed. This is the best wine in this restaurant. However, there might be better wine in the future, Bufang said. After saying that, he poured himself another cup, feeling pleased with himself. Luo Danqing looked at Bufang pouring wine as if he was his friend. The corners of his mouth instantly twitched. There wasn't much wine. Could he leave some for him? Then I won't beat around the bush. That day in the Valley of Gluttony, when I saw owner Bu in trouble, I didn't help. It was my fault. However, owner Bu should know that he has provoked the royal court's holy ground. The royal court, which likes to save face, won't let owner Bu off easily. So, Luo Danqing's face was solemn as he opened his mouth to say. Bufang drank the wine, one hand supporting his chin as his eyes indifferently looked at Luo Danqing. So what? Bufang said lazily. Bufang's tone made Luo Danqing's brows furrow. His heart shuddered. He knew that Bufang probably didn't care about the impending danger. However, this was normal. After all, this restaurant had two great ethereal realm creatures of the netherworld guarding it. What did owner Bu have to fear? Moreover, owner Bu's black pot was almost tyrannical. Even the white Taotai was dumbfounded. It was obvious that the skilled were bold. However, Luo Danqing took in a deep breath. No one knew more than him how terrifying the royal court was. The Hidden Dragon Royal Court had ruled the Hidden Dragon continent for so long. The number of experts they had accumulated was countless. The treasures they had collected were endless. They would often destroy a force and take away their treasures. After so many years, the hidden dragon royal court had developed to an unfathomable level. No one knew what kind of tricks the royal court had up their sleeves. Back then, the heavenly springs saint's son died because of his carelessness and arrogance. If it wasn't for the unexpected transformation of the little girl into a black tautai, the heavenly springs saint's son wouldn't have died. Now that the heavenly springs saint's son was dead, it was like poking a hornet's nest. The experts of the royal court wouldn't let it go easily. Although the heavenly spring Holy Land was just one of the holy lands of the royal court, the current royal court was much stronger than the Valley of Gluttony. A saint's son wasn't even a peak existence in the royal court. If there was an almighty expert, the two great ethereal realm creatures of the netherworld wouldn't be enough. Sighing, Luo Danqing looked at Bufang and said, "That's why I want to remind Owner Bu to run. The royal court really can't be provoked." As he said this, Luo Danqing seemed to have aged a lot. In this world, there were always many things that people couldn't control and couldn't do anything about. Facing the hidden dragon royal court, he felt helpless and hopeless. The royal court almost destroyed the Pill Palace just by controlling the ancient Shura city. If it wasn't for the existence of Owner Bu in Heavenly Mist City, the Heavenly Mist City might have become a force of the royal court and been taken over by them. In reality, he was just a failure. Run! Bufang was stunned. He didn't expect that after listening to Luo Danqing for half a day, he would actually say such a thing. Why should I run? I'm opening my little restaurant. Am I bothering them? Bufang took a sip of wine and asked calmly. No. You've already provoked them. If you don't run, you might be destroyed. Owner Bu, you might also die a horrible death, Luo Danqing said desolately. If Bufang left, the last Pill City of the Pill Palace would probably fall. At that time, the Pill Palace would only exist in name. Horrible death? If it doesn't work, just take the blame. Bufang said calmly. Take the blame. The corner of Luo Danqing's mouth twitched. His gaze fell on Bufang's arm that was wrapped in black bandages. Previously, Owner Bu used this arm to hold the black wok and smash the terrifying white tautai. To be honest, he couldn't understand Bufang's combat power. He was just at the divine physique echelon who had broken through one shackle. No. Luo Danqing was stunned. He released his senses and discovered that Bufang's aura had undergone a shocking change. A few days ago, he was just at the divine physique echelon who had broken through one shackle. Now, he was at the peak of the divine physique echelon who had broken through 5 shackles? What was going on? Did Owner Bu break through? But this breakthrough time span, wasn't it too strange? Others broke through 1 level at a time. Did Owner Bu break through 5 levels at once? Luo Danqing's expression was a little strange. He realized that anything that was related to Owner Bu would be a little confusing. Owner Bu, your strength? Luo Danqing's lips quivered. Bufang drank all the wine in his cup. He looked at Luo Danqing and said calmly, Strength? I accidentally broke through yesterday. He had accidentally broken through. Alright, comparisons were odious. Luo Danqing realized that Bufang didn't have any sense of danger. Sitting alone and panicking made him look a little stupid. Moreover, he realized that he couldn't persuade Bufang. He let out a sigh. Owner Bu, this is all I can say. If the royal court really attacks, I won't retreat this time. After all, without Owner Bu, there wouldn't be a Pill Palace. Luo Danqing stood up, his face instantly becoming more serious. Alright. Bufang also nodded seriously. This Luo Danqing could be considered a sentimental person. After saying that, Luo Danqing turned around and walked out of the door. Wearing a green robe, he strolled under the setting sun. His shadow was elongated, making him look a little lonely. Bufang leaned against the door of the restaurant, watching Luo Danqing leave. The royal court Holy Lands attacked? Would a true expert make a move? Afraid that he would die a horrible death, Bufang gently exhaled. No matter who it was, he would use a walk to knock them down. If one walk didn't work, then he would use two. If two walk didn't work, then he would use the Lord Go. Bufang shrugged his shoulders. This lazy dog had eaten so many sweet and sour ribs. If he didn't exercise, he would become as fat as a pig. Luo Danqing left the restaurant, clasping his hands behind his back as he slowly walked on the street. The bustling heavenly mist city made him a little absent-minded. As the Pill Palace's palace lord, he had always been high and mighty. He rarely strolled on the streets like this. Today, walking on the streets gave him a different feeling. In the past, on the streets of the Pill Palace, both sides of the street were peddlers selling elixirs. Now, Luo Danqing noticed that other than elixir shops, there were many snack shops and restaurants. Walking on the street, the aroma of food wafted in the air. He was a little absent-minded. The appearance of Bufang seemed to have changed the entire Pill City. Outside Heavenly Mist City the void distorted. A spirit boat emerged from the void, and a wave of terrifying energy instantly filled the air. After the Shura field attack, Heavenly Mist City's defense had increased by a lot. The city walls were filled with guards patrolling. The moment the spirit boat appeared, the guards noticed it. Many people's energy surged as they stared at the spirit boat. However, in the next instant, the terrifying energy that was released from the spirit boat caused the legs of the guards on the city walls to go soft. The guard commander, a divine physique echelon expert who had broken through 5 supreme being shackles, widened his eyes and his body trembled. The spirit boat was like a malevolent monster as it floated above the city walls. The bow of the boat was aimed at the city walls, and a terrifying energy was released. The surroundings became quiet at this moment. Tap tap tap. Under the frightened gazes of the guards, the clear sound of footsteps rang in their ears. In the next instant, a figure slowly walked out of the spirit boat. His entire body was wrapped in golden armor, and he carried a dark green machete on his back. A terrifying energy spread out, causing the guards to tremble. Heavenly Mist City. I've finally arrived. Chapter 702. We've finally arrived at Heavenly Mist City. Within the spirit boat, a man covered in golden armor, even his head was wrapped in a golden helmet. In the silent surroundings, only the clanking sounds of armor colliding could be heard. He let out a sigh, looking at the majestic Heavenly Mist City in front of him, his scarlet eyes flashing. Starting from the Valley of Gluttony, he didn't use the teleportation array. Instead, he relied on the speed of the spirit boat to finally arrive in front of Heavenly Mist City. Heavenly Mist City was bustling. From outside the city walls, one could see the row upon row of tall buildings. Within the tall buildings there were flickering lights, and there were many figures. That golden-armored man slowly walked, and the guards on the city walls of Heavenly Mist City did not dare to breathe. Some of their legs went soft and they fell to the ground on their butt. Some of them were so frightened by the terrifying pressure that their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Their bodies seemed to be frozen, unable to move. What a frightening aura! This aura made people not dare to move. It was as if the moment they moved, that aura would strangle them to death. The spirit boat slowly moved, and soon it stopped on top of the city walls. The golden-armored man stepped down from the spirit boat, stepping on the city walls. With a cracking sound, the bricks of the city walls cracked under the golden-armored man's step. "Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally used too much force." The golden-armored man's apologetic voice rang out, but from his tone, there was no sense of apology at all. The man pulled out the foot that had sunk into the bricks, and his other foot stepped down. However, his strength changed, and he controlled it well, as if he was walking on flat ground. After the golden-armored man walked down from the spiritual boat, a large group of golden-armored experts came out from the spiritual boat. Those experts were also wrapped in golden armor, but it wasn't as thorough as the man leading them. The man leading them only revealed a pair of ferocious beast-like eyes, which was truly terrifying. Golden Saber's gaze swept over these weak guards, and a hint of disdain flashed in his eyes. These were the forces outside of the royal court. They were pitifully weak. Whether it was their true energy cultivation or their body's spirit, compared to the forces of the royal court, they were too far behind. The Heavenly Spring Holy Ground's golden armor guards were composed of battle-hardened divine physique echelon and even divine soul echelon experts. Their combat prowess was terrifying, and they could form mysterious battle formations to kill their enemies. This time, he had brought 50 golden armor guards, which was enough to form a small-scale battle formation. Once the battle formation appeared, no matter how overbearing the existence of the great void netherworld was, he would still have to bleed. Each of the 50 golden armor guards emitted an aura similar to that of a berserk and savage beast, causing the hearts of the Heavenly Mist City's guards to tremble. The gazes of these golden armor guards were like lightning. Every time they swept past them, the Heavenly Mist City's guards felt as if they were being pricked by needles. One by one, they shifted their gazes away. In terms of momentum, they were much weaker. These Jinjiawi were much more ferocious than the Shura army. Golden Saber slowly walked to the side of the guard commander. The commander's entire body was trembling. He was pressed down by the pressure to the point that he couldn't move at all. Golden Saber raised his hand, and his palm, which was covered in golden armor, gently patted on the commander's shoulder, causing the latter to kneel on the ground. His knees caused the bricks on the city wall to crack, and cracks spread out in all directions. Guard the city wall well. Don't say anything that you shouldn't say, Golden Saber calmly said. Golden Saber said faintly. In the next instant, he raised his palm, rubbed the palm that was covered by the armor, and walked down the city wall. The guards were trembling. The commander, who was kneeling on the city wall, couldn't even stand up. His pupils dilated, and sweat continuously dripped down his face. His body slightly trembled, terrifying. It was really too terrifying. The commander felt as if he was being stared at by a peerless savage beast. If he made any strange movements, he would be torn into pieces by that expert in an instant. Who were these people? Why did they come to the Heavenly Mist City? The commander's heart was full of doubts. His professional ethics told him that he needed to inform the Pill Palace master. However, his body couldn't move at all. How hateful! Luo Danqing clasped his hands behind his back. The night wind blew gently, causing his hair to flutter. He walked on the streets of the Heavenly Mist City, smelling the fragrance of snacks and elixirs in the air. His face couldn't help but reveal a smile of enjoyment. This kind of peaceful life wasn't bad at all. The combination of delicacies and elixirs made the Pill Palace show a completely different side. The monotony of the past seemed to be gone forever, and it also made the Pill Palace shine with vitality. Originally, because the Pill Palace only researched elixirs, the entire Pill Palace was a little extreme and lifeless. However, because of the addition of delicacies, it was like a new life was injected, making the entire city seem to come alive. This kind of feeling was really good. Now, there were even some vendors who came up with a novel way to eat, mixing delicacies with elixirs. They would crush the refined elixirs into powder and sprinkle it on the snack. Using this method to sell the elixirs, they would be able to taste the delicacies while also increasing the effects of the elixirs. Although this method would cause the effects of the elixirs to dissipate, this method was much more popular than the previous fasting pills. The one who came up with this method was the Nangong family, whose main business was selling fasting pills. Today, the Nangong family had already shifted the center of their business. Although the fasting pills were still being produced, they had already surpassed their limits and were constantly innovating. This was a very good sign. If this continued, there might be a day when the Pill Palace would regain its vitality. Luo Danqing stood on an arched bridge. The arched bridge spanned across a river that passed through the Heavenly Mist City. The surface of the river was sparkling, and from time to time, fish would pop their heads out of the water and spit bubbles. A breeze blew across the river, causing his green robe to flutter. He couldn't help but let out a breath. Suddenly, his satisfied expression slightly froze. His gaze was fixed on the surface of the river. On the surface of the river, ripples spread out. It was as if something heavy was walking over, causing the surface of the river to tremble. Luo Danqing's heart suddenly became vigilant, and he turned his head to look around. It was as if the world was spinning. He looked around, then fixed his gaze on the left in front of him. There, under the light of the setting sun, a group of figures slowly walked over. They were neat and orderly, and every step they took was taken at the same time. The sound of their footsteps seemed to be stepping on people's hearts, causing them to feel like vomiting blood. This is... Luo Danqing felt a wave of domineering aura rushing toward him. The originally gentle night breeze instantly turned into a violent hurricane, causing the flesh on his face to tremble. The setting sun was like blood, shining on those people's armor. It was dazzling and dazzling. The clanging sound brought along the aura of iron and blood as it rushed toward him. Luo Danqing clasped his hands behind his back, and his eyes widened as he held his breath. Yo! Isn't this the Pill Palace's palace master, jade-faced alchemist Luo Danqing? Is this night breeze comfortable and pleasant? The leader was a man wrapped in golden armor. His aura was as domineering as a fierce beast, causing Luo Danqing to feel a wave of pressure. His entire body was covered in golden armor. You are the Heavenly Spring Holy Land's golden armor guards. Luo Danqing took a deep breath, taking a step back as he asked in a low voice. When did the Heavenly Spring Holy Land's golden armor guards enter Heavenly Mist City? Why didn't he receive any news? What were the guards doing? At this moment, Luo Danqing inexplicably felt a little irritated. He knew that the Heavenly Spring Holy Land's experts would appear, but he didn't expect them to appear so quickly. He didn't even have time to make any arrangements. He had just informed Honorbu, and now the golden armor guards had appeared. He didn't even have time to breathe. Oh, Palace Master Luo actually knows us. That makes me a little surprised. Golden Saber laughed, but that laughter made Luo Danqing's scalp tingle. Why aren't you golden armor guards staying in the royal court Holy Land? What are you doing in my Pill Palace's Pill City? Luo Danqing's face darkened as he shouted. Golden Saber's scarlet eyes looked at Luo Danqing indifferently. Don't play dumb. You know why we're here. My Heavenly Spring Holy Land's experts wielding the god-slaying weapon fell in the Pill Palace. Have you thought about the consequences? We originally wanted to give your Pill Palace a chance to breathe, but unfortunately you didn't grasp this chance. Amethyst Elder naturally sent this protector to take over Heavenly Mist City and take away the Star Tower. Golden Saber spoke slowly, but it made Luo Danqing's face change. You bunch of bandits! It's impossible for me to hand over the Star Tower to you! Luo Danqing roared. A green longsword appeared in his hand, and his aura suddenly increased. With a swing of the sword, thousands of sword energy instantly flew everywhere. Terrifying sword energy filled the air, blasting towards Golden Saber. Luo Danqing's face was ashen. Above his head, 3 steps of the Green Soul Ladder appeared. Terrifying true energy revolved around his body, as if it had turned into a storm. A weak chicken with 3 steps of the Soul Ladder dares to show off in front of this protector? Who gave you the courage? Golden Saber's scarlet eyes looked at the sword energy surging over, instantly mocking him. In the next instant, he took a step forward. Above his body, an extremely terrifying blade energy suddenly appeared. That blade energy revolved, and thousands of sword energy shattered under this blade energy. With a swing of his hand, the blade energy swept towards Luo Danqing. The entire arch bridge collapsed at this moment, and the river water was sent flying, flowing backwards. Boom! Luo Danqing's green longsword reached his chest. With a clang, the long sword shattered, turning into fragments that filled the sky. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Luo Danqing's face was as pale as paper. Strong. Too strong. One of the 13 protectors of the Golden Armor Guards was indeed terrifying. As expected of the army that the Holy Land used to conquer. Run. At this moment, Luo Danqing only had this thought. His figure landed on the ground, and the tips of his feet lightly pushed against the ground. He lightly floated up, dashing towards the distance. Lord Protector, should we kill him? The incomparably cold Golden Armor Guard's voice came, respectfully asking Golden Saber. No need. Leaving him alive won't hurt much. At the same time, let's see where he can escape to. It would be best if he can lead us to that little chef. This way, it will save us a lot of trouble, Golden Saber said indifferently. Golden Saber said casually. Then, the crowd once again moved forward, slowly chasing after Luo Danqing's figure. Luo Danqing's mouth was bleeding, but his body was as light as a swallow. He wanted to escape. Originally, he wanted to find Bufang, but with a thought, he gave up on finding Bufang. Instead, he turned and ran towards the Star Tower. I hope I can drag this out for as long as I can. I only hope that Owner Bu can listen to my words. Hurry and escape. Luo Danqing sighed in his heart. Cloud Mist Restaurant. Bufang, who was curled up on a chair and enjoying the sunset, slightly moved his originally squinted eyes. He opened them and looked into the distance. The setting sun in the distance was like blood, incomparably cold. Bufang's heart moved. He seemed to have a strange feeling. He rubbed his nose, then continued to close his eyes, enjoying the rare tranquility. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, opened his dog eyes and opened his mouth to yawn. His gaze glanced into the distance, as if he was thinking of something. He smacked his lips, turned over, and continued to sleep. Chapter 703. This is the Star Tower? Golden Saber, who was wrapped in golden armor, looked at the resplendent tower in front of him, and couldn't help but chuckle. His eyes, which were wrapped in the golden helmet, revealed a trace of astonishment. As expected of the Amethyst Elder, who wanted to obtain the Star Tower. As the Holy Land of Alchemists, the Star Tower was the key. Luo Danqing coughed out blood as he returned to the Star Tower. His aura was incomparably weak, and his face was as pale as paper. One of the 13 protectors of the Golden Armor Guards was really too strong. The pressure that the other party gave him almost suffocated him. His methods were completely useless in front of the other party. Perhaps only an existence like the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, Chu Changxing, could deal with such a protector-level expert. The other party didn't even pull out his weapon, and his full-power attack was shattered. Facing such an opponent, he was close to despair. You're already at the entrance. Aren't you going to invite us in to take a seat? Looking at the tightly shut Star Tower, Golden Saber raised his head and said indifferently. His voice wasn't loud, but it instantly spread throughout the entire Star Tower, causing many alchemists who were cultivating in the Star Tower to widen their eyes. Under the vibration of his voice, they all felt the blood in their bodies become unstable, as though it was about to rush out of their bodies. It made everyone feel extremely uncomfortable. What exactly was going on? Everyone's face revealed an expression of shock. Who exactly was it? They were in the Star Tower. Why did such an incident still happen? Many people walked to the windows of their rooms and poked their heads out. The moment they poked their heads out, they saw a group of guards wearing golden armor at the entrance of the Star Tower. The aura of these people was extremely terrifying. Who are you people? Don't you know that the Star Tower is an important place in the Pill Palace? Is it a serious crime to disturb someone refining pills? An alchemist with a stubble beard was very angry. He was refining pills at a crucial point, and being disturbed directly caused his furnace to explode. This made him very angry. Hence, he poked his head out and let out a roar. Many alchemists were people with strange tempers. Being disturbed while refining pills, they were naturally angry and cursed. However, before the elder could finish cursing, his voice came to an abrupt halt. When one of the golden armored guards heard the old man's curses, he raised his head. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and the saber behind him immediately soared into the sky, turning into a saber light that flashed by. With a puff, the old man's head fell from the window and landed on the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded, and in the next moment, they all sucked in a cold breath of air. Who were these people? Why did he dare to act so brazenly in front of the Star Tower? He didn't put the Pill Palace and Luo Danqing in his eyes at all. Were they not afraid of being punished by the experts of the Pill Palace? Manor Lord Luo, why aren't you opening the door? Do you want us to barge in? Golden Saber did not care about the old man whose head had been chopped off. He only looked at the door of the Star Tower indifferently and asked. However, the door was still tightly shut. Golden Saber shook his head and seemed to laugh mockingly. In the next moment, the long sabers on the back of the golden armored guards behind him soared into the sky. Thousands of saber energy seemed to have turned into a roaring dragon as it soared into the sky, chopping off the heads of the experts who were watching from the Star Tower. Heads fell one after another, and fresh blood spurted out, flowing on the sparkling Star Tower. It caused the originally sage-like Star Tower to become a little bloody and ferocious at this moment. It was abnormally terrifying. Panic instantly spread out. Such a terrifying scene made the minds of these alchemists almost collapse. What exactly happened? Why were those golden armored guards so rude and unreasonable? In the Star Tower, it seemed to be silent for a long time. In the end, a helpless sigh came out. With a creak, the door of the Star Tower slowly opened. Bu Fong closed the restaurant's door, stretched his neck, and walked towards the kitchen. Yang Meiji and Sorceress and Sheng also left the kitchen. Hence, Bu Fong began to practice his culinary skills. Whenever he was free, he would practice cooking new dishes. Although the practice would not have any obvious effect on the improvement of his culinary skills, it would at least give him a clear memory of cooking. In the sky, the stars slowly rose up, hanging high in the night sky. They twinkled, giving off a dazzling radiance. After Bu Fong finished practicing his dishes, he walked up the stairs and returned to his room. The entire Cloud Mist restaurant became quiet at this moment. Only the light sound of water dripping from the sink could be heard. And to the side of the Cloud Mist restaurant, the Star Tower could not calm down. The originally tranquil and peaceful Star Tower was currently experiencing a huge tremor. The moon set and the sun rose. The night passed. Within the tightly shut door of the Star Tower, the smell of fresh blood filled the air. Then, the door suddenly opened, and a large group of people slowly walked out. The one in the lead was Golden Saber, who was wearing golden armor. Behind him were 50 golden armor guards. These golden armor guards came from the Hidden Dragon Royal Court's Heavenly Spring Holy Land. Every single one of them had a terrifying spirit. Their eyes were like sharp blades. Just a glance was enough to make one's hair stand on end. And behind these golden armor guards, there was a group of alchemists with faces full of fear. It was as if they had seen a ghost. Their bodies were trembling, and as they walked, their footsteps constantly trembled. This group of people were simply demons. How could they treat the noble alchemists like this? However, they dared not say anything. Some of their faces even revealed a mournful expression. Among the group of golden armor guards, there was one person who was carrying a figure covered in blood. That person was their palace master, Luo Danqing. The Pill Palace's palace master, Luo Danqing. A dignified divine soul realm expert had actually fallen to such a state. This made these alchemists' minds about to explode. These people in front of them, they really could not afford to provoke them. You lead the way. Lead the way properly. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Golden Saber turned his head and said to an alchemist beside him. That alchemist was trembling, his eyes filled with fear. He could not refuse. Sorceress and Sheng was also mixed in the crowd. Her heart was beating violently, and her eyes were filled with worry. This group of people wanted to find trouble with Owner Bu. Why did they want to find trouble with Owner Bu? This group of people could even injure the palace master so easily. It should be easy for them to kill Owner Bu, right? Sorceress and Sheng was Bu Fang's apprentice. Naturally, she would not allow such a situation to happen. She felt that she needed to find a chance to escape from this group and inform Owner Bu, telling him to escape quickly. She thought in her heart, and her face was filled with anxiety. Under Golden Saber's pressure, that alchemist naturally did not dare to disobey. He led them towards the Cloud Mist restaurant. Luo Danqing, who was covered in blood, slightly raised his head. Blood flowed from his forehead to the corner of his eyes, causing him to be unable to open his eyes. He sighed. In the end, he was still unable to block it. Bufang's restaurant was very famous in the Heavenly Mist City, so it was not difficult to find it. Many alchemists had eaten there before. They were very clear about the route. The sun had already slowly risen above the sky, and it began to emit its radiance, sprinkling down rays of light that made people feel comfortable and comfortable. A group of people walked on the streets of the Heavenly Mist City, heading towards the Cloud Mist restaurant. There were many people on the streets, but when these people saw Golden Saber and the others, they all retreated in fear, their faces filled with fear. Many people recognized those alchemists, who had their heads lowered and faces filled with fear. They were the alchemy grandmasters of the Star Tower. Why did these alchemy grandmasters have the time to go out today? And they even looked like this? Many people did not understand, but there were also smart people who saw through the strangeness of the situation. Their eyes also revealed fear. This group of alchemy grandmasters were kidnapped by this group of golden armor guards? And the direction they were heading towards, was that the direction of the Cloud Mist restaurant? This group of people were going to eat at Owner Bu's restaurant? Nangong Wuk was hidden in the crowd, and he also saw this scene. He narrowed his eyes, and his heart slightly trembled. He felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. He saw Luo Danqing, who was covered in blood, and Sheng, whose face was ashen. What the hell was going on? Why did it seem like something so terrifying had happened in one night? Nangong Wuk looked at this group of people, and his face also became solemn. According to this group of people's route, could it be that they were going to Old Bu's restaurant? This group of people were looking for Old Bu? Wow. Old Bu's network was really wide, and all kinds of people wanted to find him. Nangong Wuk smacked his lips. Suddenly, among the crowd, a figure quickly burst out, and he quickly entered a small alley. Sorceress and Sheng finally found an opportunity, and when a large group of people surrounded her, she mixed in. "You're courting death." A golden armor guard's eyes instantly emitted a murderous aura. The long blade on his back trembled, and he held it in his hand. He slashed at Sorceress and Sheng's direction. This blade, a terrifying aura spread out, and a surging blade energy suddenly exploded. The surrounding people instantly let out a cold breath, and some directly let out a miserable howl. The people in that position were all killed by the slash. Blood sprayed everywhere. Sorceress and Sheng's figure flashed, and it seemed like she had dodged this blade. She directly went far away. "Stop. Let her go. She should be going to inform that little chef. It seems like the two of them have a close relationship. When that time comes, we can directly kill this woman in front of that little chef. That should be very interesting, right?" Golden Saber stopped his subordinate, smiling as he said. That subordinate was stunned, but he did not say anything. "You speed up, or else the result will be death." After Golden Saber finished laughing, his gaze landed on that alchemist, causing the latter's legs to tremble. However, that Golden Saber raised his hand, and a blade energy appeared. That alchemist's eyes shrank, and in an instant, his speed exploded. The golden armor guards and the others also followed. In a short while, the Cloud Mist restaurant appeared in front of Golden Saber and the others. It was not a very grand restaurant. Compared to the luxurious restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony, Bufang's restaurant could even be said to be a little shabby. However, that was not what Golden Saber cared about. In front of the restaurant, there was a long line. That woman, who was coughing blood, was dragging her body as she dashed toward the restaurant, causing the diners in the queue to scream. "All of you, scram. Otherwise, die." Golden Saber stomped his foot down, and the ground caved in, emitting an explosive sound. His roar was deafening. The diners' faces all changed, and they all fled. Sorceress Enchantment, who was dragging her heavily injured body, was exposed. "Escape? Let's see where you can escape to." Golden Saber lightly smiled. His hand shook, and the green blade on his back fell into his hand. He fiercely swung out a blade energy, and that blade energy headed straight for Sorceress Enchantment. Once it hit, Enchantment's body would definitely be chopped into pieces. The golden armor guard's eyes also revealed a look of excitement. Killing made them excited. A beautiful woman with a beautiful figure was about to fall under their blades. This made them inexplicably excited. Die. Some golden armor guards even roared. And Xing also felt the terrifying blade energy behind her. She could not avoid it, and she would die without a doubt. Heavily injured, her face was pale, and she coughed out blood. She no longer had the strength to dodge. Swaying on the spot, she turned her head to look at the blade energy that was constantly enlarging in her eyes. In the next instant, the blade energy slashed down. Boom! However, just as the blade energy was about to completely tear Xing into pieces, a black wok descended from the sky, smashing in front of Xing. That blade energy suddenly slashed on the black wok. Chapter 704. The black wok that descended from the sky suddenly smashed in front of Xing. The terrifying blade energy smashed into the black turtle constellation wok, releasing a loud explosion. Terrifying energy waves scattered everywhere. Everyone's hearts jumped. They swallowed a mouthful of saliva, looking at the heavy and unadorned black wok in disbelief. Golden Saber's blade energy smashed into the black turtle constellation wok, but it didn't leave any mark on it. It was unbelievable. This was definitely not an ordinary wok. Golden Saber also slightly raised his eyebrows. His scarlet eyes shone brightly as he stared at the black turtle constellation wok and softly exclaimed. Not to mention a black wok, even if it was 10 black wok, it could still be cut into pieces, unless the black wok's material was extraordinary. Sorceress Xing's face was deathly pale. Looking at the wok, her eyes instantly shrank. Wasn't this owner Bu's black wok? He and Xing turned her head, looking behind her. She saw Bufang, who was leisurely pushing open the bronze door. Bufang wore a vermilion robe. The red and white vermilion robe was like a burning flame, dazzling and dazzling. Bufang's right hand slightly drooped. A corner of the black bandage hung down his arm, swaying slightly in the wind. This was the little chef? Golden Saber looked at Bufang, who was walking out of the restaurant with a calm expression. The light in his eyes instantly shone brightly. It was this kid who caused the fall of the heavenly springs. Saint Sun. Bufang looked at Sorceress Xing, whose face was as pale as a piece of paper. He furrowed his brows. Slowly, he walked in front of the dumbstruck Xing. The arm wrapped in the black bandage rose, floating above the black turtle constellation wok. A roar resounded. The black turtle constellation wok became smaller, and Bufang held it in his hand. Bufang raised his head to look at Golden Saber, his face calm. Then, he turned his head to look at Xing, who was lying on the ground. Twisting his neck, he frowned. "Who injured you?" Sorceress Xing had yet to regain her senses. She was shocked by Bufang's domineering entrance. For a long time, Bufang had given her the impression that he was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He was not good with words and was a very simple-minded person. Who would have thought that Owner Bu could be so domineering? However, he couldn't be too domineering right now. The enemy was simply too strong and not easy to deal with. Didn't he see that even the palace master Luo Danqing was beaten like a drowning dog? Owner Bu, run! Sorceress and Xing turned around and shouted subconsciously. Run? All you have to do is tell me who did this to you. Bufang waved the black turtle constellation walk, and a gust of wind blew, causing his hair to flutter. Very domineering. Little chef, I was the one who injured him. So what? Golden Saber looked at Bufang, who was holding a wok and acting cool, and he felt a burst of anger. Didn't this little chef know that he was about to face Protector Golden Saber? Even the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, Chu Chongsheng, had to be wary of him. This little chef actually didn't put him in his eyes at all. He was really courting death. So, it's you? Bufang lifted his head, his face expressionless as he looked at Golden Saber, whose entire body was wrapped up tightly. Just how shameful was this guy to cover himself up so tightly? Bufang held the black turtle constellation wok, gently exhaling. Bullying my Bufang's apprentice chef? Do you really think that I, Bufang, have a good temper? Bufang's eyes narrowed. In the next instant, he took a step forward. The energy on his body began to rise unceasingly, as though there were supreme shackles swaying behind him. The 5 supreme shackles were so eye-catching. As they swayed, a terrifying energy surged out from his body. Everyone was stunned. Sorceress and Xing was also stunned. Nangong Wuk, who was hiding in the crowd, also twitched his mouth. Old Bu, you're really a clown. This Golden Saber in front of you was an existence that could crush the palace master. You're just a weak chicken in the divine physique echelon. What are you showing off for? You can't even take a slap from him. Sorceress and Xing's eyes were filled with despair. She thought that Owner Bu had some kind of trump card since he was so domineering. In the end, he stood out like a fool and exploded with the energy of the divine physique echelon. Even if he was at the peak of the divine physique echelon, could he be Golden Saber's opponent? The difference was really too big. Sizzle! A pitch-black energy rose from the bandage on Bufang's hand, then covered Bufang's entire arm. You're really courting death. Even Chu Chongsheng doesn't dare to act cool in front of me. You little chef, who do you think you are? Boom! The scarlet energy in Golden Saber's eyes suddenly exploded, and the energy on his body surged. A terrifying pressure instantly spread out, causing everyone to shiver. It was as though a towering mountain was pressing down on them. The golden armored guards didn't move, but the alchemists behind the golden armored guards felt their legs tremble. With a thud, they directly knelt on the ground. Some people couldn't bear the terrifying energy, coughing out blood as they retreated. Everyone's eyes revealed an incomparably frightened expression. This was the energy of the Divine Soul Realm. Moreover, it wasn't an ordinary Divine Soul Realm expert. That white soul ladder. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 7 steps, a total of 7 steps. This kind of existence. How could it appear in the Pill Palace? Everyone's faces changed. They had never seen a Divine Soul Realm expert in their entire lives. Today, it was an existence at the Divine Soul Realm with a 7-step soul ladder. That kind of existence was much stronger than the Palace Master Luo. This little chef's opponent was actually such a terrifying existence. The energy on Golden Saber's body shot up to the sky. The 7-step soul ladder bloomed with dazzling radiance, and at the top of the 7-step soul ladder, there was a star that was reflecting light. This was the unique symbol of the Royal Court's experts, the star reflection. Because each of the hidden dragon Royal Court's 7 great sage represented a star, they could receive the support of the star's power, which made their fighting power even stronger. Golden Saber was the Heavenly Spring Holy Land's protector, so the support he received was naturally from the Heavenly Spring star above the Heavenly Spring. Boom! Boom! Many people felt a wave of pressure, and the ground seemed to be about to crack. Divine Physique Echelon. An existence like an ant dares to act tough in front of this protector. If you have the guts, then continue to act tough, Golden Saber said coldly. His eyes were like knives. When his energy burst out, the surroundings were filled with knife energy. That sharp knife energy seemed to cut the ground, causing it to continuously crack. Inside the Cloud Mist restaurant, you held a porcelain plate in one hand, while the other was eating dragon blood rice. She stood at the door, looking at Golden Saber, who was confronting Bu Fong. The little girl also imitated you, holding a plate with one hand and using a porcelain spoon with the other to scoop up egg-fried rice. She stared at them with wide eyes. Lord Go didn't care about any of that. He breathed heavily while facing the porcelain plate, eating the delicious sweet and sour ribs. Nothing could disturb Lord Go while he was eating sweet and sour ribs. Even if the sky fell, it wouldn't work. Bu Fong tilted his head, looking at Golden Saber indifferently. He had the system, so Golden Saber's pressure was not a threat to him. Gently exhaling, Bu Fong turned to look at Sorceress and Sheng, whose body was trembling. You go into the restaurant first. Let Yang Meiji help you deal with your wounds, said Bu Fong. Sorceress and Sheng was stunned. She seemed to see the undeniable look in Bu Fong's eyes. And Sheng crawled up from the ground and limped toward the restaurant. The closer she got to the restaurant, the weaker the Golden Saber's pressure became. This caused Sheng's heart to freeze, and she was quite surprised. Looking at Yu and Xiaoya, who were leaning against the door and eating, Sheng's mouth couldn't help but twitch. At this moment, she seemed to realize that she had become an apprentice in an extraordinary place. Seeing Sorceress and Sheng enter the restaurant, Bu Fong turned his head back. His gaze swept around, landing on Luo Danqing, who was covered in blood and on the verge of death. It was hard to imagine that Luo Danqing, who was so spirited yesterday, had turned into such a miserable state today. Without a doubt, all of this was done by the guy in front of him. Little chef, you have an inseparable relationship with the fall of the Heavenly Springs Saint's son. Moreover, you took in the Netherworld's creatures without permission. Your crime is unforgivable. Kill. Golden Saber said solemnly. As his voice fell, a murderous aura shot up to the sky. Golden Saber took a step forward. His figure instantly appeared in front of Bu Fong, as if he had shrunk the ground to an inch. The terrifying pressure caused the surging airflow, causing Bu Fong's hair to flutter. The velvet rope that tied his hair also fluttered in the wind. Golden Saber raised his palm, wanting to kill Bu Fong with one palm. He really couldn't stand looking at this pretentious little chef. With his 7-step soul ladder divine soul realm strength, killing a weak chicken in the divine physique echelon was too easy. At this moment, the air seemed to be squeaking due to the pressure. A palm suddenly fell. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Everyone's eyes shrank at this moment, and their breathing became sluggish. Even Golden Saber's heart trembled. He looked over in disbelief, realizing that his palm actually didn't turn that pretentious little chef into minced meat. A black wok blocked his palm. With his full force, his palm still couldn't leave any mark on the black turtle constellation wok. Instead, from within the black wok, there seemed to be an extremely terrifying beast roaring and rushing out. It frightened Golden Saber a little, making him take a step back. Bu Fong's true energy poured into the black turtle constellation wok, shaking it hard. The black turtle constellation wok shook Golden Saber's palm. Then, the black turtle constellation wok was waved, smashing toward Golden Saber's head. When Bu Fong used the black wok, he liked to smash people's head. The feeling of the black wok and the head hitting each other made Bu Fong feel really comfortable. The Taotai arm, which was wrapped in black gas, suddenly burst forth with a terrifying power. The wok was swung with terrifying power. Golden Saber seemed to feel a sense of danger. Both of his hands formed a cross in front of his chest. However, when the black wok smashed down, he still felt a wave of terrifying energy explode. There was a loud rumble. Golden Saber was directly smashed by Bufang, making him take 1 or 2 steps back. With every step he took, the bricks on the ground crumbled under his feet. Everyone saw Golden Saber retreat, and they were all stunned. With the strength of the divine physique echelon realm, he forced back a divine soul realm expert. This King. Where did Owner Bu come from? Bufang's arm, which was wrapped in black bandages, seemed to let out a low roar. Bufang felt a little numb in his palm. Obviously, Golden Saber's palm was also very unimaginable. If I had known earlier, I would have pulled out a strand of that lazy dog's fur. Bufang sighed. After all, there was still a huge gap between him and a divine soul realm expert. If that lazy dog could directly make a move, it would be good. However, that lazy dog would not easily make a move. Unless it was a matter of life and death, when the sweet and sour ribs was in danger, that lazy dog would move its claws. Usually, Bufang could not use it. Of course, at this moment, if Xiao Bai was here, it would be much easier. Bufang sighed. Fighting and whatnot was very tiring. However, sometimes he had no choice but to fight. As a person drifting in the world, how could he not throw a wok? Golden Saber, who was forced back by the wok, instantly exploded. A terrifying energy filled the air, and streams of knife energy slashed towards Bufang. It was as if he wanted to chop Bufang to death. Chapter 705. A corner of the black bandage fluttered in the wind, and a black aura pervaded the air. It was as if there was a heartbeat ringing. The sound wasn't loud. Only Bufang could hear it clearly. He was a little surprised. He glanced at the black bandage on his arm. This bandage was formed by the black Taotai. At this moment there was a heartbeat. Could it be that the black Taotai was still alive? From afar, Golden Saber's body emitted a terrifying aura. The surging energy spread everywhere. Streaks of saber energy floated around his body, emitting an oppressive buzzing sound as if they were cutting through the air. Golden Saber's entire body was wrapped in a golden armor. No one could see his face clearly. However, from his scarlet eyes, one could see that he was enraged at this moment. He was repelled by a weak divine physique echelon chicken. His palm actually couldn't smash that ant into minced meat. This made Golden Saber feel extremely embarrassed. A dignified protector of the Holy Land, an existence with a 7-step soul ladder, was actually repelled by an ant-like weak divine physique echelon chicken with a wok. This made him, who was incomparably arrogant, feel ashamed. Above his head, the soul ladder radiated with light. Terrifying energy constantly gushed out from it, bombarding the void, causing the void to emit noises as if it couldn't bear the heavy burden. A dazzling star shone on Golden Saber. The descending energy made Golden Saber's aura even more terrifying. Die! Golden Saber's scarlet eyes moved. His last roar sounded like the roar of a wild beast. The terrifying saber energy stagnated in the air for a while before bursting out with a loud bang. They all shot towards Bufang, intending to tear Bufang into pieces. This power made everyone feel frightened and oppressed. The moment the saber energy burst out, the terrifying energy waves also rolled, causing the surrounding people's faces to change. This move was enough to flatten the entire restaurant. Could Owner Bu block it? Nangong Wuk, who was in the crowd, also shrank his eyes. He sucked in a breath of cold air. Old Bu, hold on. When facing the saber chi wantonly cutting at him, the saber chi enveloped him in all directions. Bufang's expression turned solemn. Suddenly, he had a thought, and the expression on his face suddenly became a little strange. In the next instant, with a thud, the black turtle constellation wok was placed on the ground. Fang actually chose to give up on using the Black Turtle constellation walk in the face of that terrifying saber energy. Was there something wrong with his head? Many people were puzzled when they saw Fang's actions. They had witnessed the power of the Black Turtle constellation walk. It was able to send the golden saber flying, which was enough to prove the power of this black walk. But, facing golden saber's full power explosion, Fang actually chose to give up on using the Black Turtle constellation walk. Was he seeking death? Without the Black Turtle constellation walk, how could he fight against Golden Saber? Fang raised his hand, and the black bandage on his arm made a rustling sound. Unexpectedly, it loosened from his arm and swayed in circles. A roar resounded from within the bandage, and black energy filled the air. That bandage soared into the air, wrapping around Fang's body. Fang's arm was pitch black, and there was black energy emitting from it. In front of him, it turned into a horrifying beast with its giant mouth wide open. It was the Black Tautai with a long roar. The Black Tautai opened its mouth wide, and there was a black hole revolving in its mouth. His mouth seemed to have a magnetic force as it sucked in all the saber energy that was slashing toward Fang into his mouth. The saber energy that could level the Cloud Mist restaurant to the ground. Just like that, it disappeared like a gentle breeze. The noisy noises disappeared, and everything became quiet. After the Black Tautai absorbed the saber energy, it retracted back into Fang's arm. With a rustling sound, the bandage wrapped around it, and it returned to its original appearance. It was as if nothing had happened. Fang was a little dumbfounded. This Black Taotia's soul, did it come out just to show off? Show off and then run. It was really Taotai. Taotia's soul? The Taotia's soul is really with you, kid. Looks like I made the right choice this time. Although Golden Saber was shocked that the saber energy was absorbed, he did not panic. After the shock, he thought of the technique that devoured the saber energy, and his whole body seemed to be boiling. The Taotia's soul, the inheritance of the Valley of Gluttony. These two items were the reason why the Heavenly Spring Holy Ground had been chasing after the Valley of Gluttony. Today, one of the targets was actually right in front of him, which was a pleasant surprise for him. If he could get his hands on the Taotia's soul, he could ask the Almighty of the Holy Ground to make another divine weapon. The divine weapon that sealed the Taotia's soul would be extremely terrifying. Boom! With a step, the ground cracked. Golden Saber's figure appeared in front of Fang in a flash. He wanted to capture Fang. If he had only planned to kill Fang before, now he wanted to capture this little chef. Not because of anything else, but because of the Taotia's soul. The arm that sealed the Taotia's soul grabbed the Black Turtle constellation walk, and a terrifying power burst out. The Black Turtle constellation walk swung out, and an earthy yellow halo revolved. Boom! Golden Saber's fist collided with the Black Turtle constellation walk. Fang's figure swayed, and the Black Turtle constellation walk was sent flying. I was wondering why a weak chicken in the divine physique echelon could resist this protector. Turns out it's because of the Taotia's soul. But do you really think that with the Taotia's soul you're really invincible? Golden Saber said coldly. As an expert with a 7-step soul ladder, although he was still a distance away from the almighty realm, his fighting skills were definitely not something a weak chicken in the divine physique echelon could compare with. As the Heavenly Spring Holy Ground's golden armor guard, Golden Saber had experienced battles that ordinary people could not imagine. Although Fang had the Black Turtle constellation walk and the Taotia's soul, he could resist his attack. However, Golden Saber was not anxious, and he quickly calmed down. Indeed, once he used his skills, Fang was completely led by the nose. Golden Saber's speed was really too fast. Because of his fast speed, his golden armor seemed to emit a radiance as it moved at high speed. There was a loud bang. A terrifying punch was sent out, and the air seemed to be distorted by this punch. Fang's heart was calm, and his face was a little solemn. He had also discovered Golden Saber's plan. He knew his own weakness, and Golden Saber was precisely using this weakness to madly bombard him. Bufang could not help but sigh in his heart. Fighting and whatnot is really annoying. In the restaurant, you placed the porcelain plate in front of her mouth and licked it. Her plump red lips, because of the oil, became very glossy, and it looked very alluring. Looking at Bufang, who seemed to be unable to hold on, you expressionlessly turned around and entered the restaurant. She placed the porcelain plate on the table. Looking at Lord Go, who was facing the plate and eating the sweet and sour ribs, she suddenly reached out her hand. At this moment, Lord Go was immersed in the sour and sweet taste of the sweet and sour ribs. The dog fur on his body seemed to be stretched out, fluttering in the wind. That kind of comfortable feeling made him feel like he was about to sink into it. Bufang's sweet and sour ribs was still the best. Lord Go sighed in his heart. All of a sudden, Lord Go's dog eyes widened, feeling a little numb on his scalp. Lord Go tilted his head to look, seeing you, who was reaching out her hand to grab his dog fur. The most terrifying thing was that the air suddenly became quiet. You blinked her eyes, looking at Blackie with a little embarrassment. Lord Go's dog mouth was still stained with the drunken juice. His eyes slightly narrowed, with a kind of expression that made you feel very awkward. "Little girl, what do you want to do to Lord Go's dog fur?" A magnetic and gentle voice rang out. Lord Go couldn't help but groan. Although you looked embarrassed, after being frozen for a while, she exerted more strength in her hand, trying to pull the dog fur off. Lord Go's dog head was almost lifted up. "Woof! Stop it! You little girl, be careful that Lord Go will give you a paw. You can pull the fur, but can you be more gentle? Pull it one strand at a time. You're grabbing so much. Do you really think that Lord Go's dog fur can be blown by the wind?" Lord Go was a little speechless, a little gloomy. You was bewildered, then loosened her hand. Lord Go looked at you from the corner of his eye. This stupid girl. Fortunately, this girl knew Lord Go. Otherwise, he would slap her. Lord Go's body shook. Instantly, a strand of dog fur flew out of his body, hovering in the air. "Here, the dog fur you want. Just this once. Don't do it again," Lord Go said vigilantly. His lustrous and soft dog fur could not be destroyed again. Just one strand. You grabbed the pitch-black dog fur, frowning. She was a little dissatisfied. "Just one strand? How many more strands do you want? Lord Go's fur can't be blown by the wind." Lord Go's eyes widened and his fur stood on end. He looked like he was going to slap her to death if she didn't agree with him. You pouted her lips. Holding the dog fur, she turned around and walked out of the restaurant. "This smelly girl. She's so arrogant, huh? She still despises me." Lord Go grunted, then attacked the last few pieces of sweet and sour ribs on the porcelain plate. You walked to the door, holding the dog fur. She looked into the distance. There, Golden Saber was laughing crazily. Bufang was constantly attacked, retreating quickly. The vermilion robe was fluttering, and the black turtle constellation walk was shaking. However, Bufang was still expressionless. That calm look made Golden Saber a little crazy. He wanted to see the feeling of frustration and despair when he tortured his enemy. But why was this little chef so calm? Wasn't he afraid of death? Couldn't he show a despairing expression? Otherwise, this protector would have no sense of accomplishment. Now, Golden Saber's scarlet eyes, which were wrapped in his armor, suddenly brightened. His hand reached out, grabbing the handle of the knife he had been carrying on his back. His aura underwent a drastic change at this moment. With a clanging sound, the knife light shot into the sky, and the knife energy crisscrossed in all directions. "Go to hell, kid." Golden Saber's eyes revealed a domineering look. That golden long knife suddenly slashed horizontally, and a terrifying power circulated on it. Strange patterns flashed on the knife's body. This was the god-slaying knife. Golden Saber had taken it, a weapon that was specially used to deal with the netherworld creatures. Among the god-slaying knives, it was ranked third. Using it to injure this weak chicken was a little overkill. However, Golden Saber was already high, and he couldn't control himself. True energy poured into the god-slaying knife, and suddenly, the air seemed to shake, as though it was about to be shattered. In the next moment, the golden god-slaying knife bloomed with a dazzling golden knife light, slashing the sky and splitting the earth. Its target was Bufang. Bufang stood blankly on the spot, and the expression on his face was a little strange. Sensing the aura of the god-slaying knife, God-slaying Xiao Bai is about to return. Countdown to return, 3, 2, 1. In front of the restauranteur's long black hair fluttered, and the dog fur in her hand suddenly ignited with a dark blue light. Chapter 706. Sensing the aura of the god-slaying tool, the god-slaying Xiao Bai is about to return when Golden Saber waved the dazzling golden machete toward Bufang. The system's solemn voice resounded in Bufang's mind. In that instant, Bufang was slightly stunned. The god-slaying Xiao Bai? Could it be Xiao Bai? Bufang recalled Xiao Bai, who had a stomachache the last time. Could it be that Xiao Bai was about to return? As the system's voice fell, Bufang realized that in front of him, a figure was actually slowly materializing and solidifying. It was as if someone had drawn a sketch in the air, and a figure appeared out of thin air. Golden Saber waved the machete, and a dazzling golden light shone. A terrifying energy instantly exploded. The god-slaying tool's power was incomparably strong. Not only could it increase true energy, but it could also deal a huge blow to the creatures of the netherworld. Golden Saber was also forced into a corner by Bufang, and he directly waved the god-slaying knife. With the Black Turtle constellation walk and the soul of Taotai, Bufang might not be able to match up to him in terms of true power, but in terms of fighting power and defense, he was not weaker than Golden Saber. An opponent like Fang Fu had to be fast and ruthless. Before the enemy could even react, he had to completely obliterate him. This was the reason why Golden Saber had directly used the god-slaying knife. Originally, Golden Saber had intended to leave this huge gift for the creatures of the netherworld in the restaurant. Boom! A terrifying explosion instantly broke out. The entire ground seemed to have caved in at the moment of the collision. Smoke and dust rose like a mushroom cloud, blocking everyone's sight. Everyone was shocked by the power that burst out, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. With this kind of power, many people thought that Bufang had already been smashed into minced meat. The ground seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, very quickly, everyone's eyes narrowed because they discovered that within the surging smoke and dust, there was a huge figure blocking in front of Bufang. It was a huge and fat body, and its entire body seemed to be wrapped in bronze armor. The patterns on the armor were strange, and it covered the body that was like a big ball. It was a little bloated and a little comical, but unknowingly everyone felt a terrifying pressure spreading out. Golden Saber's scarlet eyes, which were wrapped in armor, suddenly shone brightly. As the smoke and dust dissipated, he finally saw the scene in the arena clearly. The god-slaying saber that he had slashed down was actually blocked by that fat lump of metal. This made him feel somewhat incredulous. His golden saber's sure kill slash was actually blocked by an iron lump that had appeared out of nowhere. Amidst the smoke and dust behind the metal lump, Bufang carried a black wok and glanced at Golden Saber indifferently. "What is this?" Golden Saber was puzzled. His hand moved, but the god-slaying saber seemed to be clamped, not moving an inch. And that iron lump, which had its head lowered, also slowly raised its head. A grayish-white brilliance instantly shot out from that iron lump puppet's head, falling on Golden Saber's body, causing Golden Saber's body, which was wrapped in armor, to shake violently. Boom! However, before Golden Saber could react, he lifted his head and saw a pitch-black figure rapidly approaching. Thick black energy spread out, smashing down on his head. With a roar, Golden Saber suddenly pulled out the god-slaying saber that was stuck by the iron lump. However, before he could swing it, within the thick black energy, a small pink foot stretched out. The small foot's skin was as white as milk, incomparably smooth. The soft calf slightly trembled. That kick landed on Golden Saber's chest, and a terrifying power exploded. Golden Saber's entire body was instantly blown away by this wave of power, smashing into the ground far away. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the Golden Armor Guards. They had never thought that Golden Saber would be blown away. Hence, when Golden Saber fell under their feet, the 50 Golden Armor Guards felt their hairs stand on end, looking into the distance. There, the black energy dispersed, revealing a delicate and cold figure. It was Yu with a cold face. With the help of the Lord Go's dog fur, Yu's fighting power had recovered a lot. And when the smoke and dust dispersed, everyone could clearly see Xiao Bai's appearance. God-slaying Xiao Bai had undergone a huge change. His originally round head had a ferocious spike, and the metal wings on his back also emitted a cold light. In the middle of the wings there was a row of spikes, which looked somewhat domineering. If the previous Xiao Bai gave people the feeling that he was gentle, then this person, Xiao Bai, gave people the feeling that he was fierce. He was like an unsheathed sword, full of murderous aura. Bufang stood behind Xiao Bai, looking at the sharp spike. He couldn't help but reach out his hand to gently touch it. God-slaying Xiao Bai has become somewhat savage, Bufang said to himself. You also didn't expect Xiao Bai's sudden appearance. Her entire aura exploded, and her long hair fluttered. Her eyes instantly turned pitch black, and her veins bulged, covering her ears. She looked at Xiao Bai in confusion. A moment later, her pitch-black eyes turned, falling on Golden Saber in the distance. If she had known that Xiao Bai would appear, she wouldn't have asked the Lord Go to borrow the dog fur, but since she had borrowed it, she should use it quickly. A booming sound rang out. A moment later, Yu's figure crossed the void at lightning speed. Her jet-black hair condensed, turning into a long spear. A ripping sound rang out. The long spear formed by her hair suddenly fiercely stabbed towards Golden Saber. At this moment Yu was the great void. Golden Saber climbed up from the ground, and a part of the golden armor on his chest caved in. His scarlet eyes flashed. Netherworld creature? This protector didn't look for you. You actually dare to show your head? A cold voice rang out. In the next moment, Golden Saber's figure disappeared. Golden Saber drew a long blade light in the air, slashing down towards you. The god-slaying saber was specially used to deal with the netherworld creatures. The destructive power contained in the attack was even more effective against the netherworld creatures. Yu's fighting ability was somewhat beyond Golden Saber's expectations. The great void of the netherworld creatures. However, Golden Saber was still not weak, because he controlled the god-slaying saber. The 50 Golden Armor Guards finally made their move. They didn't expect that Protector Golden Saber would actually fall into a bitter battle. Dealing with a little chef, they actually fell into a bitter battle in an instant. This was really somewhat inconceivable. These Golden Armor Guards suddenly took out the long blades from their backs and quickly rushed out, rushing towards Xiao Bai and Bufang in the distance. The long blades were pulled on the ground that had long been turned into ruins, making a clanging sound, and sparks flew everywhere. The aura of these Golden Armor Guards was very strong, and their auras were very frightening. Troublemakers! Obliterate! Xiao Bai's mechanical and cold voice rang out. His eyes turned ash-gray, and instantly became blood-red. The metal wings on his back spread out, looking even more ferocious than before. Looking from afar, Xiao Bai seemed to have turned into a cruel demon. And Xiao Bai had indeed become a lot more murderous. If it was before, Xiao Bai might directly say that he would be stripped as an example to others. However, the current Xiao Bai, once he opened his mouth, he would obliterate, extremely domineering. The metal wings flapped, and a heavy pressure filled the air. Xiao Bai carried his fat body, taking big steps and running fast. His speed was as fast as lightning. Soon, he charged into the group of golden armor guard. Boom! It was as if everything had become slow. Xiao Bai took one step on the ground, and the scarlet light in his eyes skyrocketed. A puppet-like punch blasted out. Buzz, a golden armor guard's long blade cut out horizontally, slashing on Xiao Bai's armor. Sparks burst out, but it did not leave any wound. Xiao Bai's fist smashed on that golden armor guard's body. Swoosh! The armor on the golden armor guard's body cracked, scattering in all directions. His body was also sent flying by Xiao Bai's punch. The long blade fell on the ground, making a clanging sound. Two golden armor guards raised their long blades horizontally, slashing across the ground, wanting to prop up Xiao Bai. However, Xiao Bai just clawed with his two hands. His big hands were like palm leaf fans, grabbing the heads of the two golden armor guards. With a fierce swing, the two golden armor guards instantly collided. Coughing blood, they were thrown out by Xiao Bai. Bang! 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 The golden armor guards charging over were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, being thrown away by Xiao Bai. After the upgrade, Xiao Bai's fighting ability seemed to have become even more terrifying than before. Bu Fang carried the black turtle constellation walk, watching from afar. Seeing this scene, he gently exhaled. It was still the same familiar smell, and it was still the same familiar recipe. The corner of Bu Fang's mouth twitched. Fighting and whatnot was too tiring. It was better to let Xiao Bai go. Then, with a thud, Bu Fang put away the black turtle constellation walk, slowly walking toward the restaurant. In the end, he came to the restaurant's entrance, pulled a chair, and sat down. That calm and indifferent appearance made people think that he was here to watch a show. In fact, Bu Fang was not much different from watching a show. The surrounding people all had a strange expression. Why did the situation suddenly become a little out of control? A domineering and ferocious puppet. That blackened creature of the netherworld, the restaurant really had a lot of trump cards. The golden armor guards all rushed out, rushing toward Xiao Bai. Nangong Wuk, who was mixed in the crowd, suddenly slowly moved toward Luo Danqing, who was covered in blood like a dead dog. Luo Danqing was really too weak. The golden knife was too domineering, and with his strength, he could not resist at all. Fortunately, he was not beaten to death. Nangong Wuk took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to them, sneakily carrying Luo Danqing on his back. Spreading his legs, he madly ran toward the restaurant. It seemed that a golden armor guard had noticed him. Killing intent emerged, and with a turn of the long knife, it slashed down toward Nangong Wuk. Boom! Xiao Bai's huge fist smashed down, smashing the golden armor guard, who was about to sneak an attack on Nangong Wuk, to the ground. Then, he raised his hand. The golden armor guard's mouth was bleeding like a dead dog. With a swing of his hand, that golden armor guard fell far away. 50 golden armor guards, in an instant, were brutally killed by Xiao Bai, and more than 10 were seriously injured. The remaining golden armor guards looked at each other, then stepped out according to the mysterious patterns. Their energy burst forth, resonating with each other in the sky, as if forming a mysterious array. The formation formed by the 30 golden armor guards condensed a huge golden-armored giant in the sky. With the machete in his hand, he roared at Whitey. Boom! Boom! Golden Knife held the god-slaying knife, his eyes filled with madness. He rushed into the sky, suppressing you. The suppression of the god-slaying knife on the netherworld creatures was really too strong. Even with the help of the Lord Go's dog hair, you still felt a wave of suppression. The pitch-black hair spear broke under the slash of the god-slaying knife. The knife's power did not decrease, and it continued to move toward you. Xiao Bai's scarlet eyes turned, looking at Golden Knife in the sky. Staring at the god-slaying knife in Golden Knife's hand, he suddenly went berserk. Discovered the god-slaying knife. Kill. Chapter 707. Outside the Pill Palace, the wind was blowing, rolling up the fallen leaves that were falling due to the late autumn. A figure wearing a coat, his sleeves swaying in the wind, took a step forward, stepping on the solid ground. The figure wore a conical bamboo hat that covered his face. However, the white hair that flowed down revealed his old age. Pill Palace. The figure stood at the entrance and raised his head. Looking at the towering city wall in the distance, he sighed softly. There was a blade of grass in his mouth, and when his mouth moved, the grass swayed along with it. What a pity! The Pill Palace is the holy land of alchemists, but now it has fallen to this state, and even the hidden dragon royal court has their eyes on it. Sigh, raising his head, the face under the bamboo hat was revealed. It was Chu Chongqing, who had rushed over from the Valley of Gluttony. He looked at the majestic city wall, his face revealing a touch of sadness. Compared to the Valley of Gluttony, the Pill Palace was really much weaker. Perhaps in the near future, the Pill Palace would be completely controlled by the royal court. Forget it. The Valley of Gluttony can't even protect itself now, so I can't care so much. I just need to find that little girl and bring her back. Protecting the inheritance is the most important thing. Those bastards from the royal court. Chu Chongqing sighed and continued to move forward. Soon, he was close to the majestic city. The golden armor guards were scattered by the impact. Some of the golden armor guards were dead and some were injured. Everyone's armor was cracked and shattered. They looked at Whitey, who was like a demon god, and their eyes were filled with fear. It was too terrifying. This big guy was really too scary. The golden armored guards were good at building arrays, but their array was destroyed by Xiao Bai's violent attack. That terrifying fellow fiercely swatted down with his palm leaf fan-like palm, tearing apart the armors on their bodies, causing their bodies to be exposed. The golden armored guards felt wronged. Their golden armor was their pride, but this puppet actually ripped off their armor while they were still alive. Their heads could be broken, their blood could flow, but their golden armor could not be ripped off. Boom! Xiao Bai's figure suddenly disappeared, and in the next moment, he rushed over like a violent demonic beast. Several golden armored guards were sent flying in all directions. The armor on their bodies exploded in the air, revealing their shining white bodies. A Jinjiawi slashed at Xiao Bai's body. His eyes were filled with the color of iron and blood. They were the army of the Royal Court Holy Land, the division of Bloodwolf. Even if they couldn't defeat the other party, they still wanted to bite off a piece of meat from the other party. With a clanging sound, the saber slashed on Xiao Bai's body. Xiao Bai's scarlet eyes swept and immediately fell on the Jinjiawi. With a turn of his neck, the sharp spear on top of his head aimed at the Jinjiawi. Strip, boom! The palm that was like a cattail leaf fan suddenly slammed down. Suddenly, the long saber in the golden armor guard's hand was directly smashed into pieces that filled the sky and scattered in all directions. Crack! The golden armor was ripped off. That Jinjiawi was smashed away naked. His body drew a beautiful arc in the air, and he coughed up blood. Holding the golden armor in his hand, Xiao Bai's round abdomen suddenly turned, revealing a black hole. Grabbing the golden armor, he stuffed it into the black hole. With a crack, that golden armor was swallowed. And at this moment, the 50 golden armor guards were all beaten like dogs in the water, falling on the ground and howling. Some of them didn't bring clothes, so they awkwardly covered their lower bodies, looking incomparably miserable. While coughing blood, they still had to cover their embarrassing places. What kind of enemy had they encountered? Could they just stretch out their heads and directly slash? Did they have to humiliate people like this? The nether energy on Yu's body began to fade. Although the Lord Go's dog fur could let her burst out most of her strength, there was a time limit. The dark blue flame almost completely burned the dog fur. And once the dog fur was burned, Yu's strength would once again bear the restrictions of the hidden dragon continent's law. Nethery's eyes, which were as black as ink, also revealed a trace of solemnity. Rumble! Rumble! Her long hair was like a long spear, constantly whistling and slashing. Nether might. Yu's hair fluttered, her eyes cold and ruthless. Raising her hand, she patted at Golden Saber, who was waving the golden saber in the distance. Buzz. An invisible wave of energy instantly spread out. Boom. Golden Saber's body, which was moving horizontally, suddenly stopped. He felt a huge pressure fall from the sky, invisible and intangible. What? Golden Saber's face changed. He felt like his body had sunk into a swamp, and it was really difficult for him to move. Moreover, the terrifying attacks kept coming, making him really uncomfortable. The soul ladder above his head bloomed with radiance, reflecting the stars and sending down beams of light, dispersing a lot of the pressure. It's a power Upanishad attack. This great ethereal's identity isn't ordinary. Golden Saber's eyes, which were wrapped in the armor, suddenly flashed with red light. Not all great ethereals of the netherworld could use power Upanishad attack. Only the legendary members of the 12 clans of the netherworld had that kind of power. This woman in front of him was definitely a descendant of one of the great clans of the netherworld. Thinking about this, Golden Saber's eyes instantly revealed a fanatical look. He did not think that this trip would have such a surprise. If he could capture a member of the 12 clans of the netherworld to the royal court, it would be a big bargaining chip. Therefore, Golden Saber went berserk. His surroundings suddenly exploded, and a halo of energy spread out, blocking dark might. The ground under his feet cracked, and Golden Saber's figure dashed toward you in the sky. Even if the other party was a beauty, however, in Golden Saber's eyes, the so-called beauty was just a pink skeleton. Kill! A roar like a beast's roar. The god-slaying saber's dense, strange lines twinkled as the saber slashed horizontally. Crack! The blue veins on the side of Yu's eyes deepened. A monstrous amount of nether energy erupted from her hands. Nether Ghost Rush! Yu softly roared. She raised her hand and suddenly, a blurry figure seemed to appear behind her. That figure was high up above, looking down on the common people. Boom! Golden Saber's eyes instantly widened. Before the Golden Saber could slash horizontally, he was sent flying by a huge force. He could not resist this power. This was actually a profound meaning attack. This woman, Golden Saber's figure paused for a moment, then like a cannonball, he shot toward the ground. His eyes stared at you. However, in the next instant, in the void, a huge figure suddenly flew over. That Golden Saber felt a wave of terrifying threat sweeping over, causing his armor to tremble. Boom! Golden Saber felt as if he had been hit by a terrifying demon beast. He, who had been smashed down like a cannonball, was instantly sent flying again. A wild and tyrannical iron puppet floated in the void. The metal wings on its back spread out, like a rock spreading its wings. With a loud bang, Golden Saber's figure smashed into the ruins. Smoke and dust billowed. Xiao Bai tilted his head, the sharp horn on top of his head emitting a cold light. Everyone was stunned. Bufang was also a little surprised, his eyes looking at the incomparably tyrannical Xiao Bai in the void. Was this still the Xiao Bai he knew? Why did he become so manic after evolving? Xiao Bai, you've changed, Bufang thought to himself. God-slaying, Xiao Bai's mechanical voice rang out. Boom! The ruins exploded. Golden Saber carried the god-slaying saber, walking out of the ruins. The look in his eyes became more and more violent. Boom! However, before he could finish speaking, a terrifying pressure descended again. A huge figure suddenly fell from the sky, smashing hard on the ground. Golden Saber was sent flying again. What the F***ck? Golden Saber's face was constipated. Couldn't you let him finish showing off? Xiao Bai's metal wings slightly spread, and the ferocious spikes on his back shook. Buzz, a moment later, Xiao Bai shot out once again. Golden Saber flipped, his body flying far away from the ground. He straightened his body and stared coldly at the huge lump of metal that was charging towards him. The golden armor on his body was a little broken, with cracks all over it. "How dare you damage my golden armor? Unforgivable!" Golden Saber waved the god-slaying saber, roaring. In the sky, Nethery had a puzzled expression as she looked at Golden Saber, who had suddenly shifted his opponent. Her long hair slowly drooped down, and her veins dispersed. She had once again recovered her beautiful appearance. She slowly descended, landing in front of the restaurant. Her face looked a little tired. She looked at Bufang, who was leaning against the door. Her eyes moved. "Bufang, I'm hungry," you said. At this moment, Bufang was watching the battle in the sky. When he heard Yu's weak voice, he was slightly stunned. Looking at Yu, whose face was as pale as a sheet of paper, he frowned. He took out 3 spicy strips from the system-dimensional bag and dripped a drop of Crystal Source Purple Essence on each spicy strip. The Crystal Source Purple Essence contained rich essence energy, which was enough to help you recover. "Here, eat a spicy strip to calm down," Bufang said. Nethery looked at the spicy strip and pouted her lip. Then, she took it and began to eat it happily. Bufang turned his head and continued to watch the battle. Xiao Bai's increase in strength puzzled him. "System. How is Xiao Bai's fighting capacity after his upgrade?" Bufang asked. The system didn't answer him immediately. After staying silent for a while, it said, "Xiao Bai swallowed the hidden Dragon Royal Quartz god-slaying equipment and obtained the divine energy inside. Now, his strength can be compared to a divine soul realm expert with a 7-step soul ladder. Every time he wants to upgrade, he needs to swallow 2 pieces of god-slaying equipment." The system's serious voice arose, explaining to Bufang the change in Xiao Bai's strength. Bufang's face became strange. God-slaying equipment? Could it be the blade in the golden lump's hand? No wonder Xiao Bai kept attacking him. Also, the system said that Xiao Bai needed to swallow the god-slaying equipment to upgrade, and only the hidden Dragon Royal Court had the god-slaying equipment. Did it mean that he would have to fight against the Royal Court? Bufang rubbed his hair. He thought that a lazy fat dog was hard enough to serve, but now, the obedient Xiao Bai had become so picky. Why was life so difficult? Bufang sighed. And just as he was sighing, Xiao Bai opened his metal wings again, clutching Golden Saber's neck and rubbing him against the floor. It was Xiao Bai's classic fighting style, the rubbing technique. Golden Saber roared. However, Xiao Bai lifted him up and flung him far away. Ding! 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 However, at the moment he was flung away, Xiao Bai grabbed the god-slaying saber's hand. His fan-like palm rubbed against the god-slaying saber, creating so many sparks. Golden Saber's eyes widened in the air. He suddenly understood Xiao Bai's purpose. "Roar! You iron lump, you dare to covet this protector's god-slaying saber! Go die!" Golden Saber roared. However, before he could finish his roar, Xiao Bai's fan-like palm grabbed his head. His golden helmet was instantly grabbed. His 5 fingers dug into the helmet, causing it to crack. Troublemaker! Strip as an example to others. Boom! His palm suddenly exerted force. In the next instant, the helmet was directly crushed. Chapter 708. With a loud bang, Golden Saber's helmet was directly crushed into pieces. With a long hissing sound, Golden Saber's fist landed on Xiao Bai's body, creating a deafening explosion. The 2 figures separated in the air, landing on the ground. Smoke and dust billowed, filling the air with thick smoke. Within the smoke and dust, scarlet rays of light burst forth. In the next moment, 2 figures walked out of the ruins. Xiao Bai's tyrannical figure appeared, unscathed. His scarlet eyes twinkled, and the pair of metal wings on his back slightly flapped. Under the sunlight, they shone brilliantly. On the other side, within the smoke and dust, a figure slowly walked out. A low and cold voice echoed, "You really deserve to die. You actually crushed this protector's helmet. You're forcing me to." Boom! A gust of wind roared, revealing the figure in the smoke and dust. Everyone saw that figure clearly. Instantly, their eyes shrank as they sucked in a breath of cold air. This guy. What the hell was he? Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, and their bodies began to tremble. Even Bufang, who was leaning against the door, was a little bewildered after seeing Golden Saber's appearance. This guy. He's not a human? Bufang was surprised. Golden Saber really wasn't a human. His helmet was crushed, revealing his head. That head was hairy, full of fluff. His eyes were scarlet, full of wrinkles, and his skin was rough. It was incomparably ferocious. It was a wolf's head, a black wolf's head, with sharp teeth and a ferocious aura. Obviously, this Golden Saber wasn't a human. He was a wolf, or a wolf-like humanoid creature. Golden Saber shook the wolf's head, his nostrils puffing out white gas. He had been hiding his appearance, but he didn't expect that under such circumstances, his helmet would be crushed by an iron puppet. He didn't know that he would reveal his true identity. Unforgivable. The 13 golden armor protectors weren't allowed to reveal their identities. The flames of anger burned fiercely, making the golden armor on Golden Saber's body rumble. Xiao Bai strode forward, his feet stepping on the ground, causing the ground to shake continuously. Godslayer, Xiao Bai's eyes locked onto the God-slaying saber in Golden Saber's hand. It was obvious that Golden Saber had also discovered Xiao Bai's target. This made him even more shocked and furious. The God-slaying saber was something that belonged to the sacred grounds. This puppet actually coveted the God-slaying saber. It was simply unforgivable. Die! Boom! The ground cracked, and a huge pit suddenly appeared. In the next instant, Golden Saber's figure shot out explosively, turning into a straight line as he charged towards Xiao Bai. The God-slaying saber in his hand burst forth with terrifying energy, and saber energy filled the air. There was a tearing noise. The God-slaying saber slashed out, aiming at Xiao Bai's head. Not only could the God-slaying saber suppress the netherworld creatures, but more importantly, the God-slaying saber was much stronger than ordinary weapons. This was because the divine energy contained within it was extremely terrifying. A loud clanging sound rang out. Xiao Bai stood on the spot. Raising his fan-like hand, he suddenly grabbed the God-slaying saber that Golden Saber was slashing towards him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. There seemed to be white energy rising from Xiao Bai's palm. Xiao Bai's scarlet eyes turned, landing on Golden Saber. Golden Saber's wolf head's expression changed, and he let out an angry roar. Saber energy wreaked havoc from his entire body. On Xiao Bai's chubby head, a black hole instantly appeared. The black hole floated, and like a tautai, it absorbed the saber energy that filled the sky into it. There was a loud bang. The black hole suddenly burst forth with a terrifying force, pushing Golden Saber so hard that his entire face changed. Xiao Bai's hand grabbed the God-slaying saber, and his eyes flashed. Golden Saber roared, and a fist smashed onto Xiao Bai's head. Xiao Bai's head tilted. In the next instant, he flipped his hand and punched Golden Saber's face. With a bang, Golden Saber was smashed into a daze, and fresh blood directly spurted out from his wolf's nose. Golden Saber did not let go. The God-slaying saber could not be snatched away by the iron lump in front of him. Hence, he did not let go. He punched once, and Xiao Bai punched once. In the eyes of the audience, the two began to exchange blows that were like child's play. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed. With a final punch, Golden Saber instantly spurted out fresh blood, filling the sky. The spikes on Xiao Bai's back shook, and his fan-like hand reached out, grabbing Golden Saber's head. Once again, he pressed him against the ground. Moreover, crack! With a cracking sound, the armor on Golden Saber's body was actually torn off by Xiao Bai. Boom! This armor seemed to be very heavy. When it landed on the ground, it directly crushed the ground. Boom! 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 Pieces of golden armor were single-handedly ripped off by Xiao Bai, then smashed on the ground. Golden Saber seemed to have lost his will to live, but he did not struggle. Just like that, he quietly waited for Xiao Bai to strip him of his clothes. The surrounding people were a little dumbfounded. Some of them were even more excited. The crazy clothes-stripping demon was back. That's right. It's him. It's him. It's him. The Xiao Bai who stripped countless people. The familiar smell, the familiar formula, the familiar action. Nangong Wuk carried Luo Danqing, who was like a stray dog, into the restaurant. Luo Danqing leaned against the door, his breath weak. Nangong Wuk spread his legs, sitting on the floor in front of the restaurant, watching the battle with great interest. When he saw Xiao Bai tear off Golden Saber's armor piece by piece, he was so excited that he almost jumped up and cheered. "Brother Bai, you're really fierce. Worthy of being the puppet that I, Nangong Wuk, have taken a fancy to." Nangong Wuk waved his fist, saying excitedly, no matter who it was, he would strip them. Boom! The god-slaying saber finally fell into Xiao Bai's hands. Perhaps because of the stripping, Golden Saber, who had lost his will to live, gave up on holding the god-slaying saber. He chose to escape from Xiao Bai's demonic claws. Thus, he gave up the god-slaying saber and chose to save himself. However, it was already a little too late. The armor on his body was basically stripped, leaving only a pair of golden pants. The material of those pants was made of the incomparably sturdy golden natural silk. It was not something that could be easily torn. Without the restraint of the golden armor, the energy on Golden Saber's body seemed to become even more terrifying. Even the expression on his face seemed to have entered a state of madness. The god-slaying saber. That is a weapon that belongs to the royal court. Each of them is branded with the aura of the royal court's weapon. It's useless even if you take it away. The royal court's experts will follow the aura of that weapon to find you forever and hunt you down. Golden Saber's wolf head and body appeared. His pitch-black body was also furry. The fur on his abdomen was white, and the fur on his back was black. However, in the middle of the black there was a streak of white. It looked quite ferocious and handsome. If Golden Saber was a spirit beast, how could a spirit beast speak? However, if he wasn't a spirit beast, then what did this fellow have a wolf head on his head mean? Many people were puzzled. Bufang was also very curious. It was the first time he saw a spirit beast that could speak like the Lord Go. They are not spirit beasts. They are a race. The hidden dragon continent is vast and boundless. There are many races. Besides the human race, there are many other races. This Golden Saber Guard is from the spirit wolf race. They have the intelligence of a human, but they have the appearance of a spirit beast. However, compared to a spirit beast, they are much smarter. Luo Danqing, who was leaning against the door, opened his eyes that were covered in blood and said. His entire body was covered in blood. Bufang and the others were instantly stunned. Race? Not a spirit beast? In the secret scriptures of the Pill Palace, there are records about this. Although the hidden dragon continent seems to belong to us humans, in fact, it is controlled by ancient races. These races are scattered in the central area. It seems that because of some war in the ancient times, they have mixed together and formed a huge force called the Hidden Dragon Royal Court. Many holy lands in the Hidden Dragon Royal Court are led by the experts of non-human races. As the master of the Pill Palace, Luo Danqing knew many secrets, so he explained. Bufang nodded in understanding. No wonder this Golden Saber covered himself with armor. It turned out that he didn't want to expose his face. However, once his face was exposed, he was really ugly. Of course, Bufang's eyes looked at Golden Saber strangely. His heart was slightly moved. Race it was. Could this Golden Saber wolf race be eaten? Bufang was more concerned about this point. Whether it could be eaten or not. Of course, Bufang didn't know. However, at this moment, without the restraint of the armor, Golden Saber's aura seemed to become even more violent. Xiao Bai held the god-slaying saber. his scarlet eyes landing on it, constantly scanning. Golden Saber threatened from a distance. It wasn't easy for him to get one god-slaying saber. After all, this god-slaying saber was ranked very high among the god-slaying weapons. If you hold the god-slaying saber, you will be hunted endlessly. Golden Saber stared at Xiao Bai, trying to reason with Xiao Bai. However, Xiao Bai didn't care about Golden Saber's words at all. After scanning, he lifted his head, looking at Golden Saber. Golden Saber's wolf mouth twitched. He thought that Xiao Bai would change his mind and return the god-slaying saber. However, the smile on his face quickly froze. Return it? Why was he so naive? Not only Golden Saber, but everyone else was dumbstruck. Because in their line of sight, Xiao Bai directly lifted up the god-slaying saber. Under the sunlight, the god-slaying saber emitted a dazzling radiance. In the next instant, Xiao Bai's plump stomach instantly twisted, and a huge black hole appeared. Under Golden Saber's dumbstruck gaze, Xiao Bai directly stuffed the god-slaying saber into the black hole. Crack, crack, crack. Like a chewing sound, the god-slaying saber shattered in Xiao Bai's black hole. Piece by piece, it shattered, turning into tiny pieces that were swallowed by the black hole. That appearance! It seemed like he had eaten the god-slaying saber? The surrounding people all had a strange look on their faces. Those naked golden armored guards were also dumbfounded. What was going on? The Lord Protector's weapon was actually eaten? That was a god-slaying weapon. Oh my god! What kind of opponent did they meet? They even dared to eat a god-slaying weapon? Golden Saber was dumbstruck. His eyes widened and his wolf mouth opened wide. He stared blankly at Xiao Bai, who was swallowing the god-slaying saber bite by bite. Very quickly, his entire person exploded. Ah! God-slaying saber! My god-slaying saber! What happened to being reasonable? What happened to talking things over? Golden Saber's entire person was about to collapse. That god-slaying saber was temporarily given to him by the higher-ups to deal with the netherworld creatures. Now, he could not deal with the netherworld creatures, and the god-slaying saber was instead eaten by a lump of iron puppet. And it was eaten right in front of him. This was completely intolerable. Chapter 709. Crack, crack. The god-slaying saber was slowly shoved into the black hole in Xiao Bai's stomach. It was continuously crushed, and the pieces of the saber flew everywhere. The ear-piercing sound of friction resounded unceasingly. Golden Saber, who was watching from afar, was dumbstruck. Many people were also dumbstruck on the spot. Even the half-dead Luo Danqin couldn't help but widen his eyes. His face was as though he had seen a ghost. That was the god-slaying saber, the god-slaying saber of the Hidden Dragon Royal Court's Holy Land. It was incomparably sturdy and infinitely sharp. It could shatter gold and stone. It was extremely powerful and terrifying. However, this kind of divine weapon was swallowed and bitten by that lump of iron puppet. This fellow. What kind of monster was he? The last time he saw this puppet, it wasn't that powerful. How long had it been, and this lump of iron had become so heaven-defying? Golden Saber's entire body was shivering. The fine hair on his body stood up. He was so angry that he was shivering. The god-slaying saber. His god-slaying saber. Just like that, a lump of iron ate it. How could he report back? The previous few god-slaying weapons had all disappeared. To the Heavenly Spring Holy Land, it was already an indescribable loss. This time, the god-slaying saber, which was one of the top-ranked divine weapons, was lost. The Heavenly Spring Holy Land would definitely suffer a huge loss. Of course, if they could kill the great void creature of the netherworld and bring back the soul of Taotai, they could make up for this loss. Golden Saber's eyes became completely scarlet. He slowly took off the armor that was still stuck to his body, throwing it on the ground. Instantly, the ground was smashed, creating a hole. The weight of this armor seemed to be somewhat beyond imagination. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw it. It turned out that the armor that Golden Saber was wearing was actually such a heavy thing. You forced me to do this. My secret technique hasn't been cultivated yet, but at this moment you, a lump of iron, forced me to use it. I must tear this lump of iron into pieces. I'll break every part of your body piece by piece. Golden Saber roared. After the armor disappeared, the aura on his body underwent a monstrous change. His entire body suddenly swelled up and bulged. The wolf head also became sinister, and there were even patterns on its forehead that spread out. An extremely terrifying aura spread out in all directions, causing the surrounding people to feel suffocated. Golden Saber had become much larger. He slowly extended his sharp claws and fangs to his back. Then, he abruptly stabbed them into his own hair. "Kacha!" a voice rang out. In the next moment, Golden Saber pulled out a bone blade from his back. The sharp bone blade was white and filled with an ice-cold aura. The bone knife was soft and connected together, as if it was the spine of the golden knife. With a swing of the bone saber, it struck the ground, causing the ground to crack and debris to fly everywhere. Golden Blade was now several meters tall and incomparably huge. Although he had the body of a wolf, he stood upright like a human. His muscles were densely packed, and when he moved, it was like thunder. Kacha, facing Golden Saber's threat, Xiao Bai didn't listen to it. He stuffed the entire god-slaying blade into the black hole, as if he was chewing it for a while before swallowing it. Finally, the black hole slowly shrunk, disappearing. "Are you full?" Golden Saber's cold eyes fell on Xiao Bai's body as he opened his mouth. His voice was so loud that it shook the entire place. Xiao Bai patted his round belly. Lifting his round head, he looked at the incomparably huge werewolf Golden Saber, his eyes twinkling. "He shouldn't be full yet. If you have any god-slaying equipment, you can provide one." Leaning against the door, Bufang looked at the enlarged Golden Saber and suddenly opened his mouth. Everyone was taken aback. Golden Saber also squinted his eyes, turning his head to look at Bufang. A terrifying pressure instantly spread out. This Golden Saber had taken off his golden armor, and his aura became even more terrifying. It wasn't any weaker than the white Taotai. "Did I allow you to answer? Wait until this protector smashes this lump of metal and slaughters all the netherworld creatures. The next one will be you. You're just like an ant." Golden Saber opened his mouth, revealing a mouth full of sharp fangs as he said coldly. Everyone felt their hairs stand on end. This monster had become even more ferocious. Xiao Bai seemed to be a little full from eating, letting out a sound similar to a burp. In the next instant, the metal wings spread out with a clang, and a terrifying wave of air billowed out. Boom! With one step, the crushed rocks on the ground were flipped up. In the next instant, Golden Saber's figure instantly disappeared, appearing in front of Xiao Bai like a bolt of lightning. A punch blasting out. Boom! Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flashed. He instinctively raised both of his arms to block, but he was hit by the punch. He couldn't resist at all, and he was ruthlessly smashed into the ground. The ground caved in, cracking open, and waves of air billowed out. Golden Saber grinned, his sharp fangs emitting a radiance. Both of his legs suddenly stomped on the ground. Instantly, he soared into the sky, jumping high into the sky as if he was blocking the sun. The bone knife in his hand swayed, eventually becoming as sharp as a spear. In the next instant, it became huge, stabbing down from the sky. Boom! The ruins where Xiao Bai was once again collapsed. Terrifying waves of air billowed out, rolling up the broken rocks and smashing them everywhere. The Cloud Mist restaurant seemed to have an invisible barrier flickering, blocking those broken rocks and preventing the wind from blowing over. A head-sized rock came, hitting the barrier, falling down, smashing into the ground. That spot happened to be in the middle of Nangong Wuk's open thighs, which scared him so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. Trash! Why don't you stand up and continue fighting? You dare to eat this protector's god-slaying saber? This protector will make you spit it out with interest. Golden Saber roared in the sky. He fiercely swung the bone knife in his hand. Unceasingly, it struck the deep pit in the ruins. Many people were scared out of their wits, not daring to say a word. The ground cracked unceasingly, spreading out. Except for the Cloud Mist restaurant, the surroundings seemed to have turned into a pile of ruins. All of a sudden, Golden Saber's bone knife stopped swinging and his eyes froze. That was because he realized that a terrifying force had grabbed his bone knife. Boom! A figure followed the bone knife, spinning as it soared up into the sky. Xiao Bai's fan-like big hand swung, pounding toward Golden Saber. Golden Saber grinned, also raising his fist. The two collided, causing a tremor. Xiao Bai's figure was once again smashed into the ground. Weak chicken! Golden Saber laughed loudly. At this moment, he seemed to have become a little wild and arrogant, with the wild nature of a wild beast. Perhaps it was because of his appearance after taking off his armor. A wave of white radiance surged. A moment later, from the ruins, an energy cannonball shot out, directly hitting Golden Saber's body. Golden Saber was hit, and his entire body was a little crooked. In the void, he staggered several steps back. The fur on his body was scorched, with a burn wound. Although his wound was recovering fast, that kind of helter-skelter made his eyes turn blood-red. Xiao Bai crawled out of the ruins. In front of his round belly, a magic array cannon emerged. Holding the cannon, Xiao Bai aimed at Golden Saber, bombarding him with energy cannonballs. That cannonball was really fast. When it crossed the void, it caused the air to rumble. Swish! Bufang and the others were watching with great interest. All of a sudden, a gold thread shot out from the restaurant. Bufang was bewildered. Wasn't that Xiaopi? Since Xiao Bai was leveling up, Xiaopi had been sleeping for a long time. Now, he had woken up. Turning into a jet of gold light, Xiaopi dashed toward Xiao Bai. Shortly, he appeared in front of Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed. He waved his hand. He leaped into the air. Buzz! Xiaopi's body moved. A moment later, it expanded, turning into a giant creature. It was a giant gold shrimpy. That golden carapace was incomparably resplendent, and it even reflected the sun's rays. Xiao Bai's body landed on Xiaopi's back. The metal wings on his back spread out, looking so cool. Shrimpy Knight attacked again. Golden Saber steadied his body, coldly glancing at Shrimpy, smiling disdainfully. Two motley crew. Just like ants. The bone saber swept. Instantly, the sky was filled with saber energy. A saber light slashed down from the sky. Its pressure was huge, and its speed was extremely fast. Swoosh! Xiao Bai's and Xiaopi's bodies seemed to be cut into pieces. However, after a while, they slowly turned into colorful cracks. Far from them, Xiaopi's numerous small feet were moving. He was so fast that he looked like a jet of gold light. Boom! Energy cannons shot out from all directions, smashing into Golden Saber's body one after another. Golden Saber swung his bone saber, blocking all the energy cannons. The bigger he was, the angrier he got. That Shrimpy Knight's speed was so fast that he couldn't keep up with it. His eyes moved, and Golden Saber's body landed on the ground. With a boom, the ground trembled. On the ground, he would be able to display his speed more effectively. Boom! The crushed stones on the ground were sent flying. The already bumpy ground had another deep hole. Golden Saber's sturdy body disappeared. A moment later, he appeared in front of Xiao Bai and Xiaopi. Looking at Shrimpy Knight, Golden Saber's sharp claws and fangs punched down. Xiaopi couldn't dodge in time. He was hit directly on the ground. Xiao Bai's eyes twinkled. The metal wings on his back rolled, turning into sharp knives, stabbing Golden Saber's body. Swoosh! Blood splashed everywhere. Boom! Golden Saber's body was pressed to the ground by Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai swung his fan-like fist, pounding on Golden Saber's head. However, Golden Saber was still so ferocious. He opened his wolf mouth. Instantly, an energy beam shot out, hitting Xiao Bai's body, sending Xiao Bai flying. Xiao Bai's body spun in the air. Then, he steadied himself. Bright red blood was dripping from the metal wings. Xiaopi crawled up from the rubble, shaking his head as if he was wronged. A moment later, he angrily stared at Golden Saber. Golden Saber crawled up from the ground. The wounds on his body were healing at a speed naked eyes could observe. His flesh was moving. A spirit beast that had just entered the divine soul realm dares to act tough in front of this protector. Are you ready to be roasted? Golden Saber's aura became more oppressive. Above his head, the soul ladder emerged. A star shone on it, shining brilliantly. Golden Saber retrieved his bone saber, crouching on the ground as if he had turned into a real gold wolf. He lifted his head, howling like a wolf, responding to the star above his head. Buzz above the star, there seemed to be a towering and huge shadow appearing. A beam of energy fell from the shadow's finger and entered Golden Saber's forehead. Inside the restaurant, after eating and drinking to its heart's content, Blackie, who had just crouched, suddenly opened its eyes. The fat on its face shook as the corners of its mouth rose. As Golden Saber received the support of the mysterious energy, he felt stronger. The 7-step soul ladder above his head began to show a vague 8-step soul ladder. His power had increased tremendously. Roar! Golden Saber stood up, his fists pounding on his chest. He howled ear-piercingly. However, his howl hadn't ended yet. A lazy and gentle male voice drifted out of the restaurant. Where did this stupid wolf come from? You're in heat outside? Are you disturbing Lord Go's sleep? Chapter 710. Where did this stupid wolf come from? Did he disturb your sleep, Lord Go? The man's voice drifted out of the restaurant, lingering in the sky, reaching everybody's ears. Everybody was dumbstruck when they heard that voice. Some people took in a breath of cold air, looking at the restaurant as if they were looking at a lunatic. At this moment, Golden Saber, who had turned into a gold wolf, was completely enraged. His intimidating aura was oppressive and surging. As it expanded, it made people's legs soft, making them unable to stand stably. Many people had never seen an existence at this level in their entire lives. An expert at the divine soul realm with an 8-step soul ladder. How terrifying was that? Although the 8th step of the soul ladder was fake, it was enough to show that Golden Saber's power was close to that level. The divine soul realm experts with a 9-step soul ladder were called almighty. Of course, it wasn't normal to have an 8-step soul ladder. That drifting voice contained indifference, the kind of anger one would feel when they were woken up from their sleep. My God! Where did he get the guts to talk to an existence at the divine soul realm with an 8-step soul ladder like that? Golden Saber's roar slowly stopped. Of course, he had heard those arrogant words. The wolf fur on his entire body stood up, his eyes filled with rage. What did you say? His scarlet eyes fell on Bufang, who was leaning against the door. What are you looking at? I didn't say that. Bufang leaned against the door, his face emotionless as he answered. Golden Saber's pupils shrank. His gaze turned and landed on Nethery, who was beside him. However, Nethery was a woman, so Golden Saber's gaze turned and landed on Nangong Wuk, who was sitting on the ground. Nangong Wuk was bewildered. He hurriedly clamped his legs, speaking nervously. It wasn't me. I'm a low-key person. Golden Saber's wolf nose fumed. Looking at his cowardly appearance, it was impossible for him to say such arrogant words. As for the weak Luo Danqing, of course, Golden Saber didn't care about him. That weak chicken. He wasn't worth worrying about. Buzz Xiao Bai landed on the ground. Red and purple lights flickered in his eyes. Xiaopi returned to her petite appearance and coiled on Xiao Bai's head. She stared at the golden saber with her compound eyes and blue bubbles from her mouth. Xiao Bai stood on the spot as the god-slaying saber fragments in his body started to be digested, and he started to show some slight changes. Golden saber roared, and an oppressive aura filled the air. He lowered his head and opened his mouth to let out a roar. Who dares to humiliate this protector? Get out here! Golden Saber's eyes were scarlet as he let out a deafening roar. His eyes were fixed on the restaurant. He knew that person was inside. Absolutely. Many people seemed to have thought of something, and their expressions changed slightly. Then, they looked excited. Many people who knew about the Cloud Mist restaurant revealed expressions as if they were waiting to watch a good show. They stayed in the distance and observed carefully. And that invincible dog! The fat dog in Owner Boo's restaurant. Although it's fat, its fighting power is really explosive. I know that dog. Every time I go there, it's always sleeping. Seems like it's even fatter now. Many people whispered to each other and chattered. They had already guessed who the speaker was. The last time the Lord Go made his move, he had shocked the entire Pill Palace. Many people knew about it. Thus, this time, they couldn't help but look forward to it. However, some people were optimistic while others were pessimistic, because the power of the Golden Wolf in front of them was too terrifying. The opponent was an expert from the hidden Dragon Royal Court, an existence that was close to the Almighty Realm. Could that black dog really deal with him? No one knew. Thus, many people were curious. Luo Donqing's eyes brightened. A ray of hope emerged in his heart. Although Golden Saber's power had become stronger without the god-slaying saber, the Lord Go might be able to fight against him. Perhaps, the result would not be what he had imagined. Everyone was a little excited, their eyes looking at the restaurant. A faint sound rang out from within the bronze gate. Then, a black shadow slowly walked out from the door. It walked with enchanting cat-like steps, and the fat on its body jiggled. It was a black dog. Many golden armored guards wore a dumbstruck face, looking at the existence that dared to call him protector. No one had thought that it was a dog. Moreover, it was a fat dog. Where did this fat dog get the courage to challenge a wolf? Golden Saber's eyes shrank, gazing at the Lord Go. However, he couldn't find the aura on the Lord Go. This fat dog seemed to be somewhat immeasurable. Was it really immeasurable? Or was it just a trick? Golden Saber couldn't figure it out. However, today, he was a little arrogant. With the support of the stars from the Holy Land, his fighting competence was infinitely close to the divine soul realm with an 8-step soul ladder. Thus, he wasn't afraid. Just a dog. He wasn't afraid of anything. Standing upright, Golden Saber's body emitted a hazy halo. That halo trembled slightly. Just a fat dog. You dare to mock this protector? You don't know what's good for you. Golden Saber grinned, saliva dripping from between his ferocious fangs. Boom! The ground exploded. In the next instant, Golden Saber's figure turned into a stream of light as he rapidly flew towards the Cloud Mist restaurant. His target was the fat dog that was slowly walking out, its entire body trembling with fat. You held a spicy strip in her mouth. Seeing the Lord Go walking out, her eyes brightened. His Excellency was going to take action? That stupid wolf was really stupid. He shouldn't have disturbed his sleep. Once he disturbed his sleep, the consequences would be terrible. At this moment, Xiao Bai seemed to have crashed. He stood at his spot, not moving an inch. Light flashed in his eyes. Bufang's brows arched, the corners of his mouth twitching. No way. Did he get sick from eating again? Last time, he got sick from eating the god-slaying equipment. The last time Xiao Bai got sick, he had to sleep for a long time. Was he going to get sick again after swallowing the god-slaying saber? Rumble! Rumble! Golden Saber's speed was really fast. After his strength had increased, he appeared in front of the Cloud Mist restaurant in just a blink of an eye. He didn't like the restaurant for a long time. He had flattened the surrounding area, but only this place was still intact. How could he allow that? Break for me! Golden Saber roared. His paw waved, instantly changing the color of the wind and clouds. Terrifying waves swept out. A claw slammed down on the restaurant. It wanted to smash the restaurant and kill all the people in the restaurant. Lord Go's dog eyes looked a little helpless. He lifted his head, his fat drooping. Under that pressure, he kept shaking. I told you that you're stupid. But you didn't believe me. Lord Go opened his mouth, his gentle voice ringing again. Golden Saber, who was moving horizontally, was bewildered. What did he mean? A moment later, he saw that fat black dog open its mouth. An ear-piercing dog bark. Boom! Boom! Golden Saber's entire body shivered. The plump fur on his body became dull. Golden Saber, who was moving forward, suddenly froze and fell to the ground. The pressure that burst out at that moment made his heart palpitate. What was going on? He was so close to the divine soul realm with an 8-step soul ladder. Why was he like a dog in front of this black dog? Lord Go's mouth slowly shrank. After a bark, he yawned as if he had finally woken up from his slumber. Boom! Golden Saber crawled up. The fur on his entire body stood on its ends. He crawled on all fours as if he had become a real gold wolf. The energy above his head poured down, increasing his strength unceasingly. He could feel the energy expanding unceasingly. The fear and hesitation in Golden Saber's eyes disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by madness. It was as if his bestial nature was drawn out. Boom! 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 His 4 limbs crawled on the ground, digging rapidly. Between the scattering rocks, the gold wolf appeared in front of Lord Go. That ferocious mouth opened, wanting to swallow Lord Go in one bite. Lord Go's mouth twitched. He swayed, raising his exquisite dog paw. Then, he swung his paw forward. Boom! Golden Saber's mouth, which was about to bite down, twisted, a dog paw appeared in the air. That paw furiously slapped down. Golden Saber's eyeballs almost popped out. Saliva splashed from the wolf's mouth. Of course, one paw wasn't enough. That stupid wolf wanted to eat Lord Go. Lord Go wasn't happy. Thus, he flipped his hand and swung another exquisite dog paw. There was a loud bang. Another claw smashed into Golden Saber's face, causing the other side of Golden Saber's face to swell up. His eyeballs almost popped out, and a few teeth flew out of the wolf's mouth, accompanied by some blood. He had never thought that this little black dog in front of him could be so awesome. 2 paws had made him dumbstruck. Moreover, judging from the other's appearance, it seemed he hadn't used all of his power. That kind of nonchalant appearance. A netherworld creature? Golden Saber's figure flipped, landing in the distance. His wolf head was swollen, his voice indistinct. F***ck. This netherworld creature was so strong? How could there be such a powerful netherworld creature in the hidden dragon continent? Didn't they say that those things existed to stop the powerful netherworld creatures? It was already unbelievable that a great void realm appeared. Now, there was a fat dog that was even more terrifying than a great void realm creature. The important thing was, why was it a fat dog? This dog was so awesome. Couldn't it be a little more handsome and divine? Blood dripped from Golden Saber's mouth. He wasn't really stupid. Of course, he knew that the black dog in front of him was terrifying. However, he wasn't willing to give up. The god-slaying saber had been eaten, and now, he ran away without accomplishing anything. When he returned, he would definitely be punished by Amethyst Elder. No. He had to risk it. With the support of the Holy Land's star illumination, he should be able to fight. Roar. With that thought in mind, Golden Saber let out an ear-splitting roar. The star above his head revolved, and the incomparably huge phantom appeared once again. It pointed at the Golden Wolf. Golden Saber's face was filled with excitement as he looked forward to receiving the baptism of the star's power. However, shortly after, he was dumbfounded. That was because a dog's paw covered the entire sky. With a slap, it scattered the phantom. The Holy Land's star above his head was also gently taken away by the dog's paw. Puff! Golden Saber spurted out a mouthful of blood. His swollen eyes widened, filled with disbelief. That was the Holy Land's star. Lord Dog retracted his paw. On top of his exquisite paw, there was a floating star that was emitting a sparkling radiance. The Heavenly Spring Star's crystal source template? It really knows how to play. Lord Go curiously sized it up. Then, he muttered something. With a flick of his paw, the star flew up in front of Golden Saber's widened eyes. It fell into the dog's mouth. The dog's mouth slanted as it chewed, and the fat on its face shook. What the hell is this? The taste is terrible, Lord Go muttered discontentedly. Golden Saber sat on the ground. His swollen face still looked as if he had nothing to live for. Bufong leaned against the door, curiously looking at Lord Go. How's the taste? Bufong asked. It's not as good as your sweet and sour ribs. Lord Go chewed as he disdainfully said. All right, then you should be gentle. Don't break it. This wolf meat should taste good. Bufong said expressionlessly. Lord Go's face trembled. Do you want to eat sweet and sour ribs tonight? All right, Lord Go, I will be gentle. Lord Go's dog eyes gazed at Golden Saber in the distance, glowing slightly. What the hell is sweet and sour ribs? What are they talking about? Why can't this protector understand? Golden Saber was bewildered, and his entire body shuddered. Chapter 7:11. Sweet and sour wolf ribs? What was that? Why did he sound so scared? Why did he feel a little scared? Golden Saber opened his eyes wide. He sat down on the ground. The star above his head was snatched away by a fat dog, eating it like a candy. Without the star, his aura declined rapidly. The 8th step of the soul ladder that had appeared earlier had disappeared. His cultivation base had returned to the previous realm. He was even weaker than before. He couldn't even maintain his soul ladder. The star template was a treasure the Holy Land had given them. It could increase their fighting competence and competence. With the star's reflection, they could get some beams of the Holy Land's destiny. But today, his destiny was snatched, and the star was eaten. Golden Saber felt the entire world was dark. That fat dog in front of him was no different from a pig. How could it be so intimidating? That kind of power was definitely not the great ethereal realm existence of the netherworld. Although the ordinary great ethereal realm experts were strong, the hidden dragon continent was restricted by the principles. Their power would be reduced, and they would be around the divine soul realm with a 7 or 8 step soul ladder. They couldn't crush him that easily. Moreover, how could a great ethereal realm expert snatch the star above his head? It wasn't that he had never met a great ethereal realm netherworld creature. He had even hunted and killed them. However, he had never encountered such a terrifying one. A netherworld creature above the great ethereal realm. Oh my God! If this news was sent to the royal court, the entire royal court would be in an uproar. The Holy Land would be shaken. No matter what, the royal court had always thought that the strongest netherworld creature who could reach the hidden dragon continent was only at the great ethereal realm. And now, it appeared above the great ethereal realm. Gulp, beads of sweat appeared on Golden Saber's head. With a thud, they rolled down his cheeks, dripping on the ground. He had to send this news to the royal court's Holy Land. Golden Saber's eyes shrank. He had never felt so frightened before. He didn't expect that a little chef would discover such a big secret. All of a sudden, Golden Saber's body stiffened. Lord Go and Bufong were bewildered. Lord Go didn't move his claws. Their eyes gazed into the distance, falling on Xiao Bai, who was calming down. Xiao Bai's purple and red eyes flashed. Eventually, they calmed down, turning pale. However, the horn on his head became sharper. The symbols on Xiao Bai's fat belly flashed. A moment later, a black hole emerged. Golden Saber felt a chill coming from behind him. He turned his head and saw Whitey with a black hole swirling in its stomach. What did that iron lump want to do? Golden Saber narrowed his eyes. He wasn't afraid of this lump of metal. Although this lump of metal was strong, it was only 8 tails and 2 tails. If Xing Chen was here, he would definitely beat this lump of metal. Now, even if the star was snatched away, he could at least block this lump of metal. What gave him the biggest headache was the fat dog in the distance. The pressure it gave him made it difficult for him to even lift his claws. Boom, a buzzing sound echoed. A moment later, the black hole in Xiao Bai's belly twisted. From inside, a metal stick slowly emerged. The stick wasn't big and it wasn't long. However, strange patterns were carved on it, which Golden Saber was very familiar with. When he looked at it, his eyes couldn't help but pop out. That's the divine pattern of a god-slaying weapon. Golden Saber was so shocked. His wolf mouth sucked in a breath of cold air. How the hell could a god-slaying weapon appear here? There were stick weapons in the god-slaying equipment, but they looked completely different from the one in the iron lump's hand. In other words, the god-slaying stick in the puppet's hand wasn't the god-slaying stick in the Holy Land. What was that thing in his hand? Xiao Bai's leaf-like palm reached out, and the small stick fell into his hand. His ash-gray eyes twinkled. He threw the short stick up into the sky. The metal wings on Xiao Bai's back spread out, and a clanging sound echoed. A moment later, he soared up into the sky. A long metal stick appeared in his hand. The long stick shook, spinning in Xiao Bai's hand. Sparks flew everywhere. That short stick could grow longer? Xiao Bai hovered in the air. The light in his mechanical eyes scanned, locking on Golden Saber on the ground. The wings on his back shook, and his figure suddenly shot out like an arrow. Golden Saber was bewildered for a while. A moment later, he became ferocious. "You're courting death." Golden Saber, who was still fuming, was enraged to the extreme. He fiercely pulled out the bone knife on his back. With a cracking sound, the bone knife slashed out, rolling up blade energy everywhere. Xiao Bai's body didn't slow down. He was as fast as a cannonball, and the long stick in his hand swung. Swinging both sides, the stick's sparks shot up into the sky. The shadows of the stick were so illusory. A stick swept out, smashing down on Golden Saber. The patterns on the stick twinkled. A moment later, it burst out with thousands of beams of light, as if it had become 1,000 pounds heavier. Under that stick, the blade energy scattered. The power of the stick didn't diminish. It fiercely smashed down, clashing with the bone knife. Cracking sounds echoed. On the bone knife, countless cracks appeared, just like a spider web. On Golden Saber's swollen head, his eyes opened wider and wider. Looking at the cracks on the bone knife, his heart couldn't help but shiver. What the heck was that? Boom! With a cracking sound, the bone knife broke. Xiao Bai's hand shook, retrieving the long stick. The metal wings on his back shook, and his figure disappeared, leaving only a shadow. A moment later, he reappeared behind Golden Saber. He swung the rod at Golden Saber's head and smashed it down. Bufang and the others were dumbstruck. Xiao Bai's sudden burst was beyond their expectations. No one had thought that after Xiao Bai had been in a daze for a long time, he would take out a metal stick that could change its size. One stick had smashed Golden Saber's bone knife into pieces. At this moment, the stick was aimed at Golden Saber's head? Bufang was bewildered. The corners of his mouth convulsed. Under that stick would Golden Saber's head explode? Bufang thought that might. No matter what, Golden Saber's body wasn't as tough as the bone knife. But didn't he say not to smash it? Lord Go seemed to know what Bufang was thinking. He rolled his dog eyes. It's none of Lord Go's business. It's not Lord Go who smashed it. Boom! The metal rod swept out horizontally, and the patterns on it flickered, making the rod look like an iron rod that had been burned red. Golden Saber didn't have time to dodge. He only felt a wave of danger that made his entire body stiffen. A feeling of death shrouded his body. A moment later, his vision turned black. Far from him, a figure stepped through the air, and the moment he saw the scene, his expression changed drastically. "Spare the wolf under the stick!" The shadow bellowed. He took a step forward, dashing forward as if he could shrink the ground to an inch. That man wore a bamboo hat. He had a muscular body, and his white hair and beard fluttered in the wind. It was Chu Chongqing. Killing a protector of the Holy Land was a big crime. When the Heavenly Spring Holy Land took revenge, this little restaurant couldn't bear it. Relying on the netherworld creatures? It was impossible. The hidden Dragon Royal Court had many ways to deal with the netherworld creatures. Relying on that iron puppet? He could deal with one protector, but what about the other 12 protectors? Could the iron puppet deal with them? As the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, he knew how terrifying the Holy Land was. If it weren't so, he wouldn't have traveled thousands of miles to come here just for the Valley of Gluttony's inheritance. He wanted to bring the little girl Xiao Ye back. Xiao Bai's ash-gray eyes flashed. He heard Chu Chongqing's voice. However, the stick in his hand didn't show any signs of stopping. With a thud, it swept across, pounding on Golden Saber's head. In just a blink of an eye, his head was smashed open. With a sweep of the stick, Golden Saber's body was sent flying. Xiao Bai held the stick with one hand, thrusting it like a spear. Boom, boom, boom. Countless stick shadows exploded, hitting Golden Saber's body one after another. Golden Saber's broken body kept shaking and flying in the air. Buzz, retrieving the stick, he swept it. A terrifying pressure and strong wind blew, crushing the crushed stones on the ground into powder. The air seemed to stop flowing at this moment. Many people held their breaths at this moment, gawking and dropping their jaws. Many naked golden armor guards on the ground were bewildered. They were so scared that they forgot to cover their private parts. Some people remained silent for a long time before a look of fear appeared on their faces. They looked at the ferocious lump of iron that stood proudly and trembled in despair. Their lips trembled unceasingly. Protector Golden Saber, dead, dead. A iron puppet smashed his head with a stick? Oh my God! This place is hell. It must be. The surviving golden armor guards of the Holy Land were so frightened, their bodies shivering. They crawled up with their naked bodies, planning to run away. Boom! Chu Chongqing landed. He stood in front of the golden armor guards, his aura extremely heavy. Lifting his head, he revealed the old face under the bamboo hat. When the golden armor guards saw him, their eyes shrank. Chu Chongqing, you? Chu Chongqing indifferently glanced at them. Then, he extended his hand. His muscular hand gently patted the guard's head. With a loud bang, the guard's head exploded. His fingers flicked and a strong wind moved. The remaining guards were all killed by him. He didn't leave anyone alive. Xiao Bai's eyes twinkled. He didn't feel any hostility from Chu Chongqing, so he didn't take action. The stick curled up, turning into a short stick again. He shoved it into the vortex in his abdomen. Buzz, Xiao Bai's ferocious figure slowly disappeared. The sharp horns on his body disappeared, and he resumed his calm appearance. His eyes turned purple once again. Thud! Golden Saber's smashed body fell on the ground, stirring up dust. Xiao Bai slowly walked toward the restaurant. Xiaopi flashed like a gold light, coiling on Xiao Bai's round head. Bufang, kid. Lord Go wanted to be gentle, but this fat guy didn't give Lord Go a chance, Lord Go said regretfully. He wanted to taste the sweet and sour wolf ribs. What a pity, Bufang smacked his lips, looking at Xiao Bai, who had resumed his calm appearance. That metal stick was really strong. Could smash the bone saber with just one stick. The War God Stick is a weapon Xiao Bai created after he swallowed a lot of God Slayer equipment. The more God Slayer equipment he swallowed, the stronger the War God Stick becomes. The system's serious voice echoed in Bufang's head. explaining the stick's origin to Bufang. In the distance, after killing the golden armored guards, who were scared out of their wits, to prevent them from reporting back, he walked toward the restaurant. As he walked, he took off the bamboo hat on his head. His eyes gleamed as he stared at Bufang and Xiaoya. Finally found it. Chapter 7:12. Valley of Gluttony. The sixth elder sat cross-legged in the center of the restored Gluttony Square. He looked a little nervous as he was hosting the challenge. The Gluttony gods building around was packed with people. They were all excited, watching the competition in the square. Although Great Elder Chu Chongqing wasn't here, and some people were skeptical about why the sixth elder was the host, it didn't affect their focus on the competition. Anyway, it was the Valley of Gluttony's grand banquet. What they wanted to focus on was the competition, not who was the host. As the competition progressed, it became more and more exciting. There were dark horses appearing in the first few rounds of the tablet challenge competition. Since Bufang had left, his quota was cancelled. However, Jun Qingxiao had become a real dark horse. He had challenged 2 experts of the tablet of gluttony. The first one was from the top 100 and the second one was from the top 50. It could be said that he was lucky to win the first time. However, the second time, he won the competition, which shocked many people. They recognized his competence. Today, it was his third challenge, and his opponent was from the top 10 of the Tablet of Gluttony, Lu Tao, the fantasy knife, ranked 8th on the Tablet of Gluttony. The other was good at knife skills. He was good at sculpting dishes. Moreover, he could decorate the dishes in a dreamy way, which was really mesmerizing. Not only was it mesmerizing, but it also tasted really good. As he could reach the top 10 of the Tablet of Gluttony, of course, Lu Tao had his competence. Lu Tao appreciated Jun Qingxiao a lot. Thus, he wanted to teach him how to cook with Jun Qingxiao. Of course, in the end, he won. Although Jun Qingxiao's innate talent wasn't bad, it was still a pipe dream to defeat the top 10 of the Tablet of Gluttony. Jun Qingxiao understood it. Although it was a pity, he wasn't discouraged. However, when he got off the arena, he was a little disappointed. At this moment, he thought of Bufang. That young chef didn't smile much, but his cooking skills could shock people. That young chef was really excellent. Thinking to this point, Jun Qingxiao couldn't help but exhale. Sunset Lake. Many elders sat cross-legged on the lakeside. They all faced the calm Sunset Lake with ripples in their eyes. The white Taotai was sealed in the Sunset Lake. Did that mean that the inheritance was also in the Sunset Lake? These elders were all from the great sage's land. They were brazenly hiding in the Valley of Gluttony for the inheritance. The Taotia's soul had disappeared, but it was not a big deal. The main thing was that they still had a chance to obtain the inheritance. It should be known that when the Valley of Gluttony was at its peak, it could be compared to the Holy Lands or even stronger. The inheritance of such a force was naturally no small matter. At its peak, the Valley of Gluttony had many existences at the Divine Spirit Realm. The Valley Master of the Valley of Gluttony was one of the top figures in the Hidden Dragon continent. Today, the Valley of Gluttony was desolate, and the new Valley Master was missing. Naturally, the Valley of Gluttony's inheritance had become a fat piece of meat in the eyes of many Holy Lands. Suddenly, just as the elders were sitting cross-legged, the originally calm sky suddenly stirred up a storm. The space trembled unceasingly, and a huge formation emerged in the sky. In the next moment, a figure that was completely formed from light walked out of the formation. "Who is it?" An elder with a 7-step soul ladder jumped up, glaring at the light figure in the sky. However, that figure just glanced at him indifferently. That gaze was filled with indifference and coldness. It was the gaze of the light figure's original owner. That gaze made the elder shiver, freezing him on the spot. As soon as the light figure appeared in the sky, a terrifying aura diffused from its body. That aura was not weaker than an existence at the divine soul realm with a 5-step soul ladder. The elders all took in a breath of cold air. A light figure had such a cultivation base. How strong was the original owner of this light figure? Then, who was the original owner? Was it an almighty at the divine soul realm? Or an existence at the divine spirit realm? Those elders did not dare to breathe loudly. Although they were not necessarily weaker than this light figure, they were afraid of the original owner of the light figure. If they angered the original owner and the other party really came to kill them, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Whether it was an almighty expert at the peak of the divine soul realm or an existence at the divine spirit realm, they weren't existences that people like them could resist. As the aura of the light shadow spread, the sunset lake suddenly began to boil. Gurgle, gurgle, the lake water flowed backward. In the next moment there was an explosion. A terrifying figure rushed out of the sunset lake, accompanied by the clanking sound of chains. Roar! The white Taotia's face was filled with malevolence as it rushed out of the lake with immense resentment. It opened its mouth wide, and a white hole spun as it tried to devour the light shadow. However, as the water splashed, chains wrapped around his body, causing his forward momentum to slow down. In the end, he came to a complete stop. However, it stopped in front of the figure of light. The silhouette seemed to be smiling faintly as it raised its hand and pointed a finger at the white Taotia's head. Tisk, tsk, you bastard. You're still as hot-tempered as ever. The silhouette said indifferently. The white Taotia's scarlet eyes were filled with rage and murderous intent as it roared crazily. The elders were so frightened. However, the silhouette was so calm. Don't worry. I'm here to let you go. If you want the soul of the Black Taotai to complete your evolution, I won't stop you. Go. The silhouette smiled as it caressed the white Taotia's fur. The white Taotai was a little bewildered, and its rage gradually subsided. A moment later, the silhouette raised its hand, and a small formation emerged in its hand. The formation rotated, and the silhouette slammed it on the white Taotia's head. The light was dazzling, and the sunset lake shook violently, raising waves that reached the sky. The white Taotai opened its mouth, unconsciously roaring crazily. As it roared, the chains on its body began to break one by one, turning into giant scraps of iron in the sunset lake, splashing the lake water. Boom! Boom! When the most important chain was broken, the white Taotia's pressure became more and more terrifying. Its suppressed aura was finally restored. The silhouette hovered in the void, and the formation above its head began to absorb the light dots on its body. Go and find the soul of the Black Taotai. I'm looking forward to your evolution. I hope you won't disappoint me, the silhouette said casually. The white Taotai was freed, and the scarlet intent in its eyes intensified. It opened its mouth and roared at the silhouette. The roar brought with it terrifying energy waves, which shattered the silhouette. However, the silhouette's voice lingered in the void. A moment later, the formation in the sky closed, turning into a shooting star and disappearing into the horizon. The white Taotai stood proudly in the sky, shaking its body. Its white fur swayed, splashing the lake water. By the sunset lake, the elders were trembling in fear. Looking at the handsome white Taotai, their mouths were trembling uncontrollably. The white Taotai had broken its seal. The white Taotai that had broken its seal was an existence at the peak of the divine soul realm. If it had enough time, perhaps it could enter the divine soul realm. After all, this beast was extremely terrifying. Below, the elders fled in all directions. Those who didn't flee would be fools. The white Taotai was too lazy to care about this group of weak chickens. Its scarlet eyes twinkled. It opened its mouth, and the white hole in its mouth began to spin rapidly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Finally, it seemed to have determined a direction. The white Taotia's white fur fluttered in the wind as it bit into the void, shattering the void and scuttling into it. Pill Palace, Heavenly Mist City. Bufang looked at Chu Chongqing, who was walking toward him, and he arched his brows. Why did this old man come here? Why didn't he stay in his valley of gluttony? Why did he come out? Chu Chongqing first looked at Bufang, then his eyes fell on Xiaoya, who was holding a porcelain bowl and eating egg-fried rice. A smile gradually blossomed on his old face. Finally found you, Chu Chongqing smiled and sighed. Bufang arched his brows. Why did this old man have such a perverted smile? And he was still staring at the little girl, harboring evil intentions? Psychopath? Bufang thought to himself. The area around the Cloud Mist restaurant had been through a great battle, and it had turned into ruins. To repair the ruins, it would take a lot of time. However, this did not stop the crowd from loving the restaurant. The restaurant could still be opened. With the Pill Palace's transportation array, the ruins would be repaired automatically, which saved a lot of trouble. Elder Dog was a little bored. He had thought that he would have a chance to use his claws. In the end, Whitey, this lump of meat, had suddenly been enlightened and killed the enemy with one hit. If you wanted to kill it, then so be it. At least leave a complete body. In the end, this lump of meat had beaten the gold wolf to a pulp. The dead gold saber had transformed into his true form, which was a huge black wolf. He should have been handsome, but after being hit by Xiao Bai's stick, he was already unrecognizable. The air seemed to be filled with the smell of blood. Many people still did not dare to come close to the restaurant. They were watching from afar. Luo Danqing did not think that things would end like this. No. His eyes widened. Things were far from over. A protector of the Holy Land was dead. He was a protector. His position in the Holy Land was not low. The fall of such an existence would definitely attract the attention of the Holy Land. At that time, the peak existences of the Holy Land would send people to settle this matter. Could Lord Go and Xiao Bai stop them? The terror of the royal court Holy Land was not something Luo Danqing could imagine. Although the battle was over, Luo Danqing started to worry again. That fellow had given him too much pressure. Fortunately, Lord Go and Lord White were here. Chu Chongqing had already arrived in front of the restaurant. Chu Chongqing arrived in front of the restaurant. He looked at Xiaoya kindly, his eyes bright. Xiaoya recognized Chu Chongqing, so she was not too afraid. However, her big eyes were a little curious. Why was this white-bearded grandpa looking at her and smiling foolishly? Bufang raised his hand that was wrapped in black bandages, rubbing the little girl's head. He knew that Chu Chongqing was here to find this little girl, so he let them have a chat. All of a sudden, Bufang furrowed his brows, because he felt that the black bandage on his arm had suddenly become extremely hot. This kind of hot feeling. It seemed that the Black Taotia's soul was a little restless. Restless? Why would the Black Taotia's soul be restless? With a buzzing sound, thick black smoke suddenly emerged from the bandage, forming the Black Taotia's appearance. The Black Taotai opened its mouth and looked at Bufang, as if it was saying something. Bufang narrowed his eyes at the sight of its restless appearance. Seems like there's a situation. Chapter 713. The sudden appearance of the Black Taotia's soul made Chu Chongqing retract his eyes from Xiaoya to Bufang. He was familiar with the Black Taotia's soul. It was supposed to be sealed inside Xiaoya's body. However, as Xiaoya had grown up, the seal had gradually weakened. Finally, during the Glutton God's banquet, the Black Taotia's soul had broken out. Although he didn't know why the Taotia's soul was absorbed and subdued by Bufang, it was still a good thing, wasn't it? When the Black Taotai was at its peak, it wasn't weaker than the White Taotai. Compared to the White Taotai, the Black Taotai was even more ferocious. It was also the reason why the White Taotai was only sealed and the Black Taotai was killed, leaving only a wisp of the Taotia's soul. At this moment, the Taotia's soul was revealed. Moreover, Chu Chongqing's powerful perception could feel the fear from the Black Taotia's soul. That fear made him a little suspicious. What could make the Taotia's soul so restless and fearful? What was it? Chu Chongqing didn't know, and neither did Bufang. However, he frowned, looking at the sky far away. It seemed there was a terrifying energy fluctuation expanding. That energy's aura seemed to be familiar to Bufang. Lord Go had planned to walk his cat-like steps back to the path understanding tree to take a nap. However, it seemed to have sensed something. Its eyes, which were almost closed, opened a slit, looking at the sky far away. Yu's jade-like nose twitched, gazing at the sky. Xiaobai stood behind Bufang. His mechanical eyes had turned purple, with light moving inside. On his head was the golden-yellow xiaopi. A small, exquisite chicken head emerged from under Bufang's feet, its small eyes rolling. 80 was curious, watching everything. However, when Lord Go shot at a glance, 80's chicken head shuddered, retracting instantly. Kacha, Chu Chongqing was bewildered. His brows furrowed. He stood up and turned around. Just like Bufang and the others, he turned to look at the restaurant. The space there began to collapse and distort, and a terrifying wave of air rose up. It was as if a terrifying existence was about to walk out of it. This kind of aura directly traversing the void with his fleshly body? Could it be that an almighty expert from the heavenly spring Holy Land found out about Golden Saber's death? They're here? Chu Chongqing's pores shrank as he couldn't believe it. That was impossible. It was impossible for the people of the heavenly spring Holy Land to know that Golden Saber had been destroyed here so quickly. What was that thing? Only almighty powerhouses could traverse the void with their physical bodies. The space that was beginning to shatter was the scene of almighty powerhouses opening up a space exit. When the Valley of Gluttony was at its peak, many almighty experts could do that. Bufang's eyes flickered with a strange light. Even the void was broken. Could it be that they were here to cause trouble again? But why was the soul of the Black Taotai so restless? Bufang's face was emotionless as he thought to himself. All of a sudden, a bestial roar came from the broken space. Space shook, and sand and stones flew everywhere. Chu Chongqing was a little bewildered. He took in a breath of cold air. That familiar feeling, that familiar roar. Could it be the white Taotai? Boom! The void exploded, and a white shadow emerged from the broken void. Its white fur fluttered in the air, looking incomparably majestic. His scarlet eyes were trembling with terrifying fluctuations, and his power was boundless. Boom! The shattered void quickly fused back together. The white Taotia's body landed on the ground, its razor-sharp claws gleaming with radiance. It opened its big mouth, and the white hole in its mouth moved as if it wanted to swallow people's souls. The white Taotia's body seemed to emit divine light. Everybody was dumbstruck. They had never thought that such a terrifying spirit beast would come out of the void. How could it come out of the void? Many people couldn't recognize the white Taotia's eyes, but it didn't stop them from feeling the intimidating pressure and energy from the big white Taotai. Its murderous aura filled the air. Without a doubt, it was a peerless savage beast. Chu Chongqing's eyes shrank and his hair stood on end. He thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him, the white Taotai. Wasn't this beast sealed in the Sunset Lake? That was the seal set by the Valley Master of the Valley of Gluttony. How could this guy get rid of it? Without the seal, the white Taotai was in existence at the almighty level. The appearance of such an existence had brought a crisis that made people feel hopeless. Why did the white Taotai come? Of course, Chu Chongqing knew that it came for the soul of the black Taotai. The white Taotai needed to swallow the soul of the black Taotai to evolve. The white Taotai had reached a bottleneck because its bloodline wasn't pure. If it wanted to break through, it had to fuse with a purer bloodline. Only then could it break through the shackles. Roar! The white Taotia's nostrils fumed white smoke. Its eyes were scarlet, and its 4 limbs pounded on the ground, cracking the already ruined ground. Its eyes moved, passing through the crowd and landing on Bufang, or rather, on the soul of the black Taotai beside Bufang. The soul of the black Taotai was entangled, its eyes filled with fear and anxiety. He knew what the white Tautai wanted, but the current him couldn't stop it. No, if the white Tautai could enter Bufang's spirit sea, everything would be easy to solve. After all, this kid's spirit sea had a bunch of monsters. However, the problem was that the white Tautai still had a real body, so it couldn't enter Bufang's spirit sea easily. The Lord Go cocked its head, looking at the white Tautai, and grinned. "Oh, this thing looks so ugly," said the Lord Go gently. He didn't try to hide his voice, which reached everyone's ears. Chu Chongqing was speechless. Bufang's mouth twitched, but he still nodded in agreement. The Tautai didn't look good, but this fat dog was covered in fat. How could it have the guts to talk about others? "This thing's not bad," said the Lord Go. From afar the white Tautai roared. It had finally found its target and its fur fluttered. When it saw the soul of the black Tautai, its eyes revealed a greedy look. "Found it. Devour it!" Boom! A paw pounded on the ground. The white Tautai's figure dashed towards Bufang. Its speed was fast, and it brought with it a terrifying pressure. That pressure seemed to bring with it a black cloud that pressed down on them. The black Tautai coiled around Bufang's arm, roaring at the white Tautai. A moment later it scattered, turning into a bandage, wrapping Bufang's arm. Chu Chongqing's body tensed up. His white hair and beard fluttered unceasingly in the strong wind. This was the attack of the white Tautai at the almighty realm. He was desperate. Behind Bufang, Xiao Bai's eyes flashed. His body shot out and the metal wings on his back opened. Instantly his body changed. While flying in the sky, he turned into the god-slaying Xiao Bai. The sharp spikes on his back protruded, growing out one by one. Shrimpy, who was coiled on the beast's head, was startled by the sharp sound. Xiaopi rolled in the sky, his body enlarging as if he was made of gold. Xiao Bai took out the war god's stick from the black hole in his abdomen. Patterns emerged, and his aura burst out. The war god's stick was like a red-hot iron stick. It swept up fiercely, turning into thousands of stick shadows. Then, it ruthlessly swung towards the white Tautai. The white Tautai roared, and the white hole in its mouth moved. Instantly, a distorted wave of energy spread out. Boom! Rumble! Boom! An explosion occurred in the sky. The white Taotia's energy wave and the god-slaying Xiao Bai's stick collided. The strong wind scattered, and the air waves swirled. However, in the middle of the air waves, a giant body dashed out. Its claw slashed down, sending Xiao Bai and Xiaopi away. The two couldn't resist, crashing into the ground, creating another deep ditch on the already ruined ground. With just one move, Xiao Bai was subdued. With just one claw, the god-slaying Xiao Bai was sent flying away. The white Taotia's fighting prowess wasn't ordinary. After all, it was an existence at the almighty level. Even if the white Tautai hadn't fully recovered, it was still an existence at the divine soul realm with a 9-step soul ladder. After sending Xiao Bai away with one claw, the white Tautai let out an ear-piercing roar. Its body was like a white lightning bolt dashing over. Its giant mouth opened and the white hole moved inside. It planned to swallow the entire restaurant. That way, the black Taotia's soul wouldn't be able to escape. Nangong Wuk leaned against the restaurant, his legs tightly crossed. His face was filled with excitement. After killing Golden Saber, another powerful spirit beast appeared. It was too exciting. Nangong Wuk was so excited that he wanted to scream. Luo Donqing's face had already turned pale. The white Taotai. The unsealed white Taotai was an existence that could easily destroy the entire Dan Palace. It really appeared. It seemed like it really wanted to kill them all. It was about to swallow the black Taotia's soul. It was about to take that step. The white Taotai was so excited, roaring unceasingly. However, a moment later, its roar disappeared. In front of the restaurant, a fat dog slowly raised its exquisite paw, patting the void. That movement seemed familiar to the white Taotai. Soon, an energy dog paw condensed in the sky. That dog paw. The white Taotai remembered it deeply. Looking at the dog paw, its fur stood on end. It was this dog paw that stopped it from swallowing the black Taotia's soul. And now, it appeared again. Unforgivable. Boom. However, it was useless. The white Taotai wanted to dodge, but it couldn't. He was slapped on the head by the dog's paw. This familiar scene, this feeling of déjà vu. It reminded the white Taotai of the fear of the dog paw. Chapter 7:14. Terrifying dark nether energy condensed rapidly. A moment later, in the sky, it congregated into a giant dog's paw shadow. White Taotai opened its mouth wide, and its dashing motion halted. It looked at the dog's paw, its eyes showing a familiar sense of fear. That dog's paw looks familiar. Boom. However, before White Taotai could finish thinking, the dog's paw swept across the sky, pounding on White Taotia's head. After a loud boom, White Taotia's body was smashed down by the dog's paw, smashing hard on the ground. The entire ground shook and the broken rocks cracked. White Taotai was dumbstruck. A moment later, it was enraged again. Enraged in disbelief. Opening its mouth wide, its body flipped, and it crawled up from the ground. Its eyes were filled with ferocity. It's that dog's paw again. Last time, it was the same dog's paw that stopped it from devouring the Taotia's soul. This time, the dog's paw won't succeed. Roar. The white hole was spinning rapidly, and a terrifying suction force was generated from it. The Lord Go looked at White Taotai, who was crawling up from the ground and roaring at the sky. He rolled his eyes. A moment later, the exquisite dog's paw swung again, pounding on White Taotia's head. However, this time, White Taotai didn't retreat. Instead, it dashed toward the dog's paw without any resistance. White Taotia's body flickered. It was hard to catch its movements in the void because its speed was too fast. In fact, the white Taotai even had the urge to swallow the dog's paw in one gulp. The white hole spun rapidly in its mouth. A moment later, White Taotai bit the dog's paw that was waving in the void. He was actually planning to turn the tables and devour the dog's paw. However, while the ideal was plentiful, the reality was rather harsh. Before White Taotai could bite the dog's paw, it was smashed on the other side of its face. With a loud boom, the white Taotai fell onto the ground once again. Chu Chongqing was a little dumbstruck. He stared blankly at the white Taotai, who was once again slapped to the ground. The corner of his mouth twitched as a look of disbelief surfaced on his face. After breaking free from the seal, the white Taotia's combat power was extremely formidable. It could be called an almighty being. But at this very moment, that almighty white Taotai was like a dead dog. Time and time again, it was slapped to the ground by the paw that suddenly froze in the void. It was merciless, this, what the hell? It was that dog paw again. Of course, Chu Chongqing knew about this dog paw. If it weren't for this dog paw, perhaps the white Taotai would have finished devouring the black Taotia's soul. Boom! Xiao Bai soared up from the ruins. The war god's stick in his hand emitted a scorching light again. However, looking at the white Taotai being pressed on the ground, Xiao Bai's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. Retrieving the war god's stick, he scratched his round head suspiciously. The spikes on his body retreated. Bufang indifferently looked at the white Taotai, who was slapped to the ground by two dog paws. He didn't expect that this fellow would come to him. And didn't that old man Chu Chongqing say that this plaything was restrained by a seal? Previously, when the white Taotai showed its ferocity, Bufang was roared at several times by this filthy beast. And now, back in the Cloud Mist restaurant, this fellow still dared to be this fierce. Did it want to court death? Lord Go strode with his enchanting cat-like steps, the fat on his entire body jiggling. The white Taotai was slapped to the ground. It struggled to get up, opening its mouth. Countless streams of energy congregated in front of the white Taotia's mouth, congregating into a wild and violent energy ball. That energy ball seemed to contain an extremely terrifying amount of energy. Just by congregating, the void was a little twisted. The white Taotia's eyes were filled with brutality and greed. Boom! However, before it could spit out that energy ball, the dog paw fell again, pounding on its head. The energy ball in the white Taotia's mouth directly turned into energy and dispersed. Buzz, the dog paw disappeared. A moment later, it was replaced by a fat black dog, who was striding with enchanting cat-like step. This black dog strolled, its body flying up. Shortly, it appeared in front of the white Taotai. Compared to the white Taotai, the Lord Go's body was naturally smaller. However, that fat dog's lazy and steady aura made the white Taotai feel somewhat incredulous. Without the sweet and sour ribs, is there another sweet and sour Taotai ribs? The Lord Go stuck its tongue out, panting slightly. The white Taotai stood up, looking down at the Lord Go, its eyes indifferent. The energy swirling inside the white hole was too frightening. It was the Taotia's unique and terrifying aura. Unfortunately, this white Taotai was too weak. Chu Chongqing and the others listened to the Lord Go, and their brows twitched. Did this fat dog want to eat the white Taotai? Was this fat dog the true form of that dog paw? Hiss! Hiss! Many people took in a breath of cold air. Bufang leaned against the door, looking at the giant Taotai. His eyes brightened. He had never tasted Taotai meat, so he didn't know how it tasted. Perhaps he could give it a try. Yes, Taotai meat should taste good, said Bufang, smacking his lips. Then, the Lord Go's eyes brightened. At this moment, its lazy aura disappeared. The white Taotai looked at the fat, ant-like dog in front of it, roaring loudly. It had an urge to swallow the other. The Lord Go slowly raised its paw, slapping again. Thud! The white Taotai was pounded on the ground one more time. The ground caved in. You animal, you do have some meat. Not bad, said the Lord Go. Everybody was speechless. Looking at the Lord Go's jiggling fat, where did he get the courage to say that the white Taotai had meat? The white Taotai could feel the mockery in the Lord Go's words. However, a black dog wanted to stop its path of evolution. The white Taotai wasn't willing to accept it. Roar! That mouth opened to the extreme, emitting a sound similar to the evening drum and morning bell, causing the surrounding ground to explode. The white Taotai roared at the Lord Go. It didn't feel the Lord Go's aura, which was why it dared to roar. However, the Lord Go's response to the white Taotai was simple and brutal. He rolled his eyes, and in the next moment, his mouth suddenly opened wide, as if he had turned into a super large bag. Bark! The dog barked, bringing with it an intimidating aura and pressure. It was like a tornado was stirred up. Countless rocks on the ground shot up into the sky, shattering in the blink of an eye. The white Taotai was forced to take several steps back by the Lord Go's bark. Its head was a little muddled, constantly buzzing. This dog is so strong. Seeing the white Taotai being suppressed one-sidedly, Chu Chongqing's face became more solemn. The white Taotai was unwilling. It had just broken the seal, and its aura was at its peak. What it needed to do was to find the black Taotia's soul and devour it to evolve. However, it didn't expect that it wouldn't be able to eat the black Taotia's soul. Instead, it had provoked a demon-like dog. Boom! The exquisite dog paw swung. The white Taotia's head was pounded on the ground again. The ground cracked, and the bricks cracked. The Lord Go indifferently swung his paw. If one paw didn't work, then two paws. If two paws didn't work, then three paws, paw after paw slammed down. Each time, the ground would shake violently, shatter, and crack. The white Taotia's head was pounded deep into the ground. It didn't even have the ability to turn around. The paw slapped more than 10 times. The Lord Go thought it was about time, because he could only smell the white Taotia's faint aura from the ruins. That aura was so weak and desperate. You should at least resist. Why don't you resist? It's not fun at all, the Lord Go said, feeling speechless. Hovering in the air, he reached out his paw, licking. Then, he raised his paw again. His paw slammed down. Heaven and earth energy gathered rapidly, turning into a dog paw, smashing down. The ground collapsed. The white Taotia's body couldn't move anymore. Dark red blood slowly gushed out from the ground. The Lord Go's nose twitched. He snorted, turned around, and walked his enchanting cat-like steps back into the restaurant. Bu Fong, kid, it's your turn now. Later, the Lord Go wants to eat hot, delicious sweet and sour Taotai ribs. The Lord Go's lazy, magnetic voice arose. Everybody was silent, watching the white Taotia's giant body fall in front of the restaurant. Its head was pounded deep into the ground, delivering food from 10,000 miles away. Except for this thing, no one else would do that. Nangong Wuk suddenly laughed, breaking the awkward atmosphere. The corners of Chu Chongqing's mouth twitched. Delivering food from 10,000 miles away. How could he think of that? That was the white Taotai, a spirit beast that could rival the almighty realm. How could such a spirit beast deliver food from 10,000 miles away? All of this was a misunderstanding and a coincidence. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. However, the truth was that the invincible white Taotai was smashed to death by a fat dog's paw. Chu Chongqing took a step forward, leaping up into the sky. Looking at the white Taotia's head that was buried deep in the ground, his eyes shrank. The white Taotia's body had black nether energy moving unceasingly. It was a netherworld creature's trick. That dog was a netherworld creature. It was so terrifying. Bu Fong faintly replied to the Lord Go. Then, his aura burst out a little bit. Taking a step forward, he appeared above the white Taotia's corpse. That white Taotai was smashed to death. Green smoke twirled around Bu Fong's arm. The bandage expanded, turning into a giant black Taotia's soul. As soon as that fellow appeared, it gazed at the white Taotia's body. Roaring, the black Taotia's soul dashed toward the white Taotia's body. Roar. A series of roars resounded. From the white Taotia's body, a baiguang surged along with the bestial roar. It was the white Taotia's soul. Facing the white Taotia's soul, the black Taotai didn't show any mercy. It opened its mouth and directly bit it. The white Taotia's soul and the white Taotia's soul tangled together, tearing each other. The white Taotai saw the black Taotia's soul as an opportunity to evolve, and the black Taotai also saw the white Taotia's soul as an opportunity to evolve. However, before this, the two Taotais were sealed in different places. They didn't have anything to do with each other. Naturally, they developed peacefully. But today, the two Taotais had their eyes on each other. If they didn't tear each other to death, it would never end. Of course, Bu Fong didn't care about the battle between the white Taotia's soul and the black Taotia's soul. His eyes brightened, gazing at the white Taotia's body. An ingredient of an almighty existence, Bu Fong mumbled. A moment later, the muscles on his entire body slightly bulged. Bu Fong also felt a little impatient. Compared to the gold wolf ingredient, this white Taotia's ingredient made Bu Fong more satisfied. Buzz green smoke twirled. A moment later, the gold dragon bone kitchen knife appeared, hoisted on Bu Fong's shoulder. His bright eyes gazed at the white Taotia's body. Braised? Boiled? Or sweet and sour ribs? Chapter 7:15. Holding the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bu Fong squinted at the white Taotia's corpse on the ground. He suddenly had a little hope. The white Taotai was the highest level cooking ingredient he had ever encountered. He wondered how it would taste. The Taotai was said to be able to swallow everything. Taotai meat should be delicious and nutritious, right? Bu Fong was silent in his heart. Then, the corners of his mouth slightly curled up, revealing a trace of a smile. The white Taotia's soul and the black Taotia's soul were tearing and tearing each other in the void. Although they were both souls, they were equally strong. The white Taotia's soul had just left its body, so it was at its peak. Although the black Taotia's soul had been sealed for a long time, it was still very intimidating after being purified. The two seemed to be evenly matched. Of course, it had nothing to do with Bu Fong. Chu Chongqing looked at Bu Fong, who was so excited. His eyes shrank. Did this kid want to eat the Taotia's meat? It was the body of an almighty spirit beast. Did he want to cook it and eat it? However, looking at the way Bufang looked at the Taotia's meat, Chu Chongqing thought that it was possible. Perhaps that kid did want to eat it. Anyway, Chu Chongqing always felt that this kid wasn't afraid of anything. Why would he be afraid of eating the Taotia's meat? Moreover, Chu Chongqing was a little bit moved. As he was the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, he had read many books in the Valley of Gluttony's library. Being the holy land of chefs, most of the books were about cooking ingredients and dishes. Chu Chongqing seemed to have read the evaluation of the Taotia's meat. The previous valley masters of the Valley of Gluttony were actually gluttons. They had a deep understanding of eating. Previously, when the Black Taotai was killed by the Valley Master, the Taotia's soul was sealed, and the Taotia's body was eaten by the Valley Master. The description of the Taotia's meat in the books would leave a deep impression on people after reading it once. Of course, Chu Chongqing had read it. Although he had never eaten the Taotia's meat, he had read the description. Thinking about it now, he couldn't help but drool. That was a real delicacy. Bufang wanted to use his knife on the Taotia's meat. His heart was suddenly moved. Perhaps he could take this opportunity to have a good meal? Lord Go lazily returned to the restaurant, laid down under the path understanding tree, yawned, and began to sleep. Yu leaned against the door. She had guessed that Bufang was going to cook Taotai meat. Suddenly, she was a little excited. The strength of this big guy was so strong, and the meat quality was definitely not ordinary. It was just unknown how Bufang was going to cook it. Under the curious gazes of the crowd, Bufang carried the dragon bone kitchen knife and frowned as he looked at the giant corpse in front of him. Bufang's strength had increased tremendously. He grabbed the white Taotia's body and forcefully pulled its head out from the ground. Whoosh! Broken rocks tumbled down from the cliff. In the void, the white Taotia's soul, which was fighting with the black Taotia's soul, seemed to feel that someone had moved its body. Instantly, it roared mournfully. Baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, it stormed towards Bufang. Although it had only a wisp of its soul left, it wouldn't allow anyone to touch its noble body. Anyone who touched it would die. The white Taotia's soul's rampage had attracted many people's screams. They were so scared that they had to take several steps back. Chu Chongqing's eyes shrank. He was about to take action. However, Bufang was calm. It seemed he wasn't afraid of the Taotia's soul. Under Chu Chongqing's surprised look, Bufang raised his hand, which was wrapped in a black bandage. The black Taotia's soul halted as it was about to attack. It looked at the white Taotia's soul with a mocking smile as it dashed towards Bufang. That fellow had 3 monsters in his body. Did he want to die? Then, he should go swish. The bandage on Bufang's arm began to loosen. His arm, which was covered in black patterns, suddenly had a strong suction force. A moment later, the white Taotia's soul was pulled into Bufang's spirit sea. What happened next was much easier to do. This time, the 3 soul tools didn't show up. However, Bufang had the black tortoise's power to support him. Thus, in his spirit sea, it was easy to crush the white Taotia's soul. Eventually, the white Taotia's soul surrendered. It wasn't an equal opponent to Bufang. In Bufang's spirit sea, the white Taotia's soul could only be tortured. If it didn't surrender, it thought that this kid would destroy its broken soul. Bufang opened his eyes. The vermilion robe on his body fluttered, and an earthy halo flashed in his eyes. A moment later, Bufang exhaled. At the same time, his right arm had some changes. His arm, which was covered in black patterns, now had white patterns. The two of them confronted each other, moving unceasingly. Swish! The black bandage wrapped around Bufang's arm. However, the black bandage turned white. Eventually, the bandage became black and white. The 2 noisy fellows finally calmed down. Bufang arched his brows. He could feel that the black and white Taotais in his hand were still biting and confronting each other. The black Taotai seemed to have the upper hand, suppressing the white Taotai. It was nibbling away at the other's soul. Perhaps, soon, the black Taotai would swallow the white Taotai completely. Looking at his black and white bandage, Bu Fang's mouth twitched. He looked a little helpless. He felt that the strength in his arm had increased. His current strength had reached a terrifying realm. At least, it had far surpassed the physical strength of a peak divine physique echelon realm expert. Holding the white Taoya's body with one hand, Bu Fang looked at it for a while. Finally, he tossed it. Light flashed. The white Taoya's body disappeared. Bu Fang had put it into the system dimensional storage. Above the void, a gust of wind and clouds changed their faces. A moment later, it was as if an invisible eye was watching everything from the sky. The eye saw the fall of the white Taotai, and the scene of the white Taotai being put into the system dimensional storage by Bu Fang. A wave of anger emerged in the eye. This useless white Taotai can't even do such a simple thing. I want you to evolve, but you don't have this life. Useless. A faint, angry voice suddenly spread out. Many sensitive people were alerted. Bu Fang was a little surprised. He seemed to have heard someone say that he was handsome. However, when he turned his head to look around, he didn't see anything. Chu Chongqing took a deep breath. His eyes were like lightning as he looked at the sky. There, he saw a phantom eye that was slowly dispersing. This method seemed somewhat familiar to him. However, he really couldn't remember who did it. After all, he was old. Chu Chongqing didn't care anymore. He sighed, shook his head, and continued to focus on Bu Fang. The white Taoya's soul was also taken away by this kid? At this moment, the way Chu Chongqing looked at Bu Fang became more and more strange. That gaze made the pores on Bu Fang's body slightly open. Why was he looking at him like that? Bu Fang's face was emotionless, but he was a little suspicious. Let's go. Today's business is over. Tomorrow it's business as usual. Bu Fang walked a few steps as if he had remembered something. He turned his head to look at the group of people who were sneaking glances at his direction. The people around were bewildered. A moment later, they all dispersed. They knew that Owner Bu wanted them to leave. Owner Bu was a formidable existence that could kill the divine soul realm experts. The air was still filled with the smell of blood. The owner of that smell was an expert at the divine soul realm with a 7-step soul ladder. That kind of expert was something they didn't even dare to dream about. Today, he was killed in front of them. And that giant beast, although they didn't know what it was, its domineering appearance had frightened them. It wasn't an ordinary creature. Unfortunately, it was still dead. The Lord Go had smashed it to death with his claws. People felt sorry for that giant beast. Of all people, it had to provoke the Lord Go today. It had become an ingredient in Owner Bu's hands. Many people sighed, their eyes filled with regret. It was a pity that they couldn't have the chance to eat the dish cooked by Owner Bu. With that giant beast's power, the spirit, energy and charm in its meat were enough to make people crazy. Let's go to the restaurant and talk. Bu Fang glanced at Chu Chongqing, then said indifferently. After he finished speaking, he walked toward the store. With a bang, the bronze door slammed shut. Only the Cloud Mist restaurant was intact, standing in the middle of the ruins. A gust of wind blew past, sweeping up the sand that was swept up by the broken ruins. Only some broken corpses and dark red bloodstains were left on the ground. The formation on the ground began to move slowly and began to repair the ground. In the sky, the blurry eyes emerged one more time. That pair of eyes gazed at the Cloud Mist restaurant with an indescribable depth. Inside the restaurant, Nangong Wuk was exhausted, sitting on a chair. His legs were wide open and he looked exhausted. Luo Donqing's wounds had stopped. No matter what, he was an expert at the divine soul realm. His powerful body had helped him endure. Nethery, on the other hand, sat quietly to the side, her face cold. Chu Chongqing curiously assessed the restaurant, his face pensive. At this moment, Xiaoyu was chasing 80, running back and forth in the restaurant. She couldn't stop giggling. 80 looked as if it had seen a ghost. It ran and giggled unceasingly. Xiao Bai had returned to the kitchen, standing at the entrance. Its mechanical eyes twinkled unceasingly. Those people were waiting for Bu Fong to cook the Taoyue's meat. They wanted to enjoy it, and Bu Fong didn't refuse them. The white Taoyue was so big, so it wasn't too much for them to eat it together. However, Bu Fong didn't say anything. He turned around and entered the kitchen under people's expectant eyes. He was about to cook the Taoyue's meat. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.